Good evening, race fans, and welcome to Auto Club Speedway in Fontana, California for the California 400 for the Belly Up Sports Cup Series in the Elite Racing League. My name is David Westergreen, and I will have the pleasure of discussing this race tonight with our producer, David Huckleberry, and then my two co-announcers, Zach Evans and James Watson. And James, I'll start with you for this week. I know you and I have both raced quite a bit at Auto Club. What is your, I think, favorite aspect of this 2-mile racetrack?
My favorite is just the viability of all the lanes. To me, it's Michigan International Speedway, but a little better. Michigan isn't as wide, and you have the banking differences on like the inside lane. It really doesn't feel like that's the case here at Fontana. You can use basically every lane and it still be incredibly viable. Now we're still, just with how these cars are, we're still probably going to see like maybe the first two lanes on the outside be where you want to be, but the inside can still work a lot better than at Michigan, and that's what I really appreciate about it.
Yeah, this is one of the best tracks I think I would in the NASCAR circuit. Unfortunately, obviously, been removed from the real life performances, and luckily we still have it here tonight, and we get to watch these guys go for, I believe it'll be 200 laps. So Zach, you're our Larry Mack version, the trends guy. What did the trends say about this race upcoming here for 200 laps?
Well, it's worth noting this will be the first time we've had a full distance race here at the Auto Club Speedway, as we see the starting grid here on the screen. But the last couple of times we've run 200-mile events here, it's been pretty attrition filled, lots of cautions, and unfortunately that's been the trend in our last couple of Cup Series events this season as well. So hopefully we reverse that and get some clean racing in tonight. This is definitely a track that can produce it, but these guys really got to, kind of get their act together.
Yeah, we want to see a clean race. A lot of the guys were talking before about hoping to get some green flag pit stops for the first time this season. So I believe we can. Hopefully these guys are able to knock that out, run some green flag laps at this beautiful racetrack, and we'll start looking at the qualifying order. The 4D Racewear Pole Award winner is Tyler Fody for Lake Norman Motorsports, and Ethan Burrell for Pro Edge Racing will start alongside him on the outside of the front row. Ethan Stanley and Trey Holmes will roll from that second row, with Jonathan Cutlip and Ty McIntosh rolling in row 3. Blake Reynolds, the points leader, rolling in row 4 alongside Chris Wright. That's Matthew Weeks and R.C. Enerson in row 5, with Scott Crump and Tate Lytle rounding out row 6.
After that, we have Caleb Pecumer and Gavin Hibbs on row number 7. Good qualifying effort for Caleb Pecumer in that 13th spot. Gavin Higgins rolls off 15th. Paul Mikolajczyk takes the 16th spot in qualifying. David Tooker lines up 17th, followed by Seth Rawls in the 18th position. Defending Belly Up Sports Cup Series champion Justin Wadsworth will roll off 19th. Corey Abbott 20th. Cale Pocock 21st. Josh Adams 22nd. Ryan Schultz 23rd. And Leighton Norgard rolls off 24th.
Garrison Hogan will be the 25th starter, with Jeff Green alongside him making his return. Brent Jones will start 27th alongside Justin Vandermarl. Then you've got Josh Personet and Michael Hosack rounding out the top 30. Chad Frankenfield and Johnny Thomas will go there in row 16. Nick Massey and Kyle Hanshaw row 17. Dusty Dewar and Gilberto Javier Gomera in row 18.
And rounding out the field, as you see on the right side of the screen, they're on the backstretch for the formation lap. You have Carlos Acosta 37th, Ray Bracey 38th, Mark Rabillas 39th, Michael Goodman 40th, Ryan Gable 41st, and Harrison Talon shotgun on the 42 car field.
Yep. We don't really have picks or time for picks in this one. We'll let this one go as it stands. Tyler Fody up here alongside Ethan Burrell. We'll note we do have William White in the booth. We might even sprinkle him in a little bit here during the broadcast, as he is watching with us while his internet works out. So hopefully Race Control can get in and get going, and hopefully there aren't any issues to take care of before that. Pace car is off. Tyler Fody and Ethan Burrell on the front row, bringing us down to that restart zone. And the green flag is out for this California 400, 200 laps around this 2-mile speedway, and the Lake Norman Chevrolet is already bump drafting off towards turn 1.
And here you already see some 3 wide there. Scott Crump looking to the inside of Matthew Weeks. Can't quite pull alongside, but further back there you see more of that 3 wide racing, as now they'll funnel down the backstretch for the first time of 200 laps.
A lot of dicing and slicing there into that opening corner, trying to find the best way around this racetrack. James mentioned all the potential lanes, potential avenues you can get speed here at Auto Club. We even saw it differently between the 2 leaders. As Tyler Fode comes off 4, he will lead lap number 1. He and Ethan Stanley ran completely different lines there through turns 3 and 4. 2 teammates using different lines to get around this Auto Club Speedway, and that's exciting. That's the best part of this racetrack. You see Chris Wright's way up top, and we have a big back of cars from R.C. Anderson and Scott Crump on back.
And that's exactly what you have to do, is because the dirty air can be so difficult to deal with in this car. The fact that you have all these different lanes to be of use, it allows you to actually have some sort of opportunity to make it through the field. If it was a much more one-line track, you kind of would be mired back a lot more. But if you can find just that little sliver of clean air that you need, you can slip by a lot of people in a quick amount of time.
On board with Tyler Fode here from the race lead. I think you're absolutely right, James. You can pick your way through this field. The big question, though, is do you want to, right? I don't know that I would want to be pushing and forcing my way through the field right now. With all these cars stacked on top of each other, it's a really good way to overrun it and wreck each other, but you also have that potential. This is the only time these cars are going to be stacked up on each other. If this race does open up and go green, you got to get all you can here before everything spreads out.
Yeah, because the one advantage that Michigan has over Fontana is the tire wear. Tire wear is significantly worse here at Fontana because of the much older surface. It's a lot rougher, and you've got a little more sand you have to worry about, being somewhat kind of close to the coast. Not super, but still a lot more you have to worry about here than in Michigan. So you always have to be careful of that and just worried about not burning off your tires over the bumps.
I mean, I would argue also that makes for better racing, right? A lot of tire wear certainly is something these drivers are going to have to consider, right? This race is long. There are going to hopefully be green flag pit stops in this race, and you're going to have to manage your tires over the course of a run. Some of the best guys at that are currently fighting in this pack. You got Garrison Hogan in the middle of this pack. He just drove to the top of the racetrack. Also in this pack is Tate Lytle, another one of those guys that's really good on saving tires. So too Justin Wadsworth, last season's champion. So a bunch of these guys all fighting in the pack right now, but also trying to find ways to save tires while they race side by side, much like Tate Lytle's doing right now. In fact, he might go 3 wide. It out to 2 wide. Mikolajczyk's the car that jumped way up to the top of the racetrack right there.
And yeah, way up the racetrack. Definitely the operative word. I think somebody behind him may have caught a piece of the wall as well. But I mean, that goes back to those, the way you can run pretty much anywhere on this Auto Club Speedway surface, and definitely a driver's racetrack.
So looking at this running order, the front 3 kind of as expected, but currently challenging for 3rd spot is Chris Wright in that number 9 South Shore Racing Ford. And as he just clears by Ethan Burrell up front, and Ethan Stanley goes for the race lead. Trying to see, is Dave here? Do we have you, Dave? There we go. Chris Wright's up front here. He's in 3rd. That's about the highest we've seen Chris Wright, where he wasn't trying to pull a strategy. Qualified really well up in that 8th position, and he's only driven forward to the start of this race. He's driven up to 3rd. Chris tends to be someone who overburns those tires, much like what James just said, as Jonathan Cutlip bypasses Ethan Burrell for that 4th spot. But, a good run so far for Chris up here, and we'll see if he can make it stick over a longer run.
Oh,
Ooh.
William White on the way to save the day.
The guy's behaving.
Here I come to save the day.
That's good for William. Then we got the guys actually did put together 8 clean laps to start this race, and that's usually one of the more treacherous times in this Auto Club race. Is that right off that restart when you're 3 and 4 wide. Now everything's a little bit settled out, and we could potentially get a longer run in here. Chad Frankenfield has moved up from that 31st starting spot up to 21st. He's currently battling Caleb Pecumer for that spot. And I believe we had a change for the lead. We did. Ethan Stanley went around his teammate Tyler Fody, so brings Stanley back to the lead. Chris Wright opting to use a little bit of a higher lane to try and make up ground on these Lake Norman Chevrolets. So look at that pass for the lead.
Pulls to the inside, going into turn 1. Wraps right along that white line on the bottom of the racetrack and is able to carry the speed off corner exit, clear himself up to the fence. And there's your lead change.
Oh. While we looked at that replay, Chris Wright has driven around Tyler Fody for that second spot, used the outside lane to do so. He's continuing to run that top groove. I do think that he is not really saving the tires on that 9 car. I think he's trying to go bring it up to the front, get some laps led, and he may fall back if the tires do wear, but he might be playing the game today. We haven't really had very many long green flag runs in this season, barring Daytona. So, he's going to want to try and, get up front, get that track position, and then hope for a quick caution.
And that's
Go on,
ahead.
Zach.
No, I was just gonna say that's the beauty of these full distance races is there's a lot of ways you can approach them and try to figure out the best possible strategy, knowing there's gonna be plenty of twists and turns along the way.
Yeah, it's definitely a viable strategy. Personally, though, knowing my luck, I know for a fact that if I was to try a strategy like that, going, hey, well, this is how it's going in the season, so I'm just going to drive like this. And suddenly, oh, look, we went caution-free, and I suffered for it. Yep, that tracks.
That's right. That's the luck. And I think that's luck that Chris has kind of encountered in this Elite Cup series. He's a guy that fought for championships over in Erska a couple of seasons back, but the way the tire models and stuff have changed has kind of shifted how Chris runs these races, and he's not as easily able to save the tires while going fast. And ultimately, I think he wants to get back there, right? This is a very talented driver. We've seen him win Truck Series races. We've seen him, up at the front of these Cup Series races, but he just hasn't been able to put it all together. And I think a race like this is a great time to do so. And he's up here battling these 2 guys who've dominated the season for the lead. But you see right behind him, Blake Reynolds has opted to start using that top lane as well.
Yeah, and now we've kind of bunched up here in the top 5 or 6, really, with Ethan Burrell. After for a little while we'd stretched out a little bit. Now these guys are all on top of each other in this lead fight.
Reynolds just drove around Jonathan Cutlip there using that really top lane. We have a little smoke here on the front straightaway. I'm wondering if we happen to have an incident there.
Yeah, and I think we also have some fresh tire tracks in the grass too, right where that smoke was.
See if we can't find a replay for everybody. Caleb Pocock appears to be the culprit. Johnny Thomas loose in front.
Oh.
Kyle Hanshaw and Caleb Pocock making contact there on the front straightaway here. It's not going to bring out a yellow, though. Hanshaw was able to straighten up that car. You can see the tire tracks there. That's where they came from. Let's jump back to live if we can, because there was just 3 wide for second. Blake Reynolds has gone on a tear. He bypassed Tyler Fody. He's gone around Chris Wright. He's challenging for the lead underneath Ethan Stanley.
Yeah, I think there might have even been some contact there between Blake Reynolds and Tyler Fody, and certainly if you were with us last week, there was definitely some tension between those two drivers as they fought for the win at New Hampshire as well. So early start to the theatrics here at Auto Club.
Yeah, there was like negative a couple centimeters of gap there when Blake kind of crossed down on Fode's nose, which made things almost really interesting for a second there.
Yeah, it was. And Blake came up on Fode again, and I think Zach put it pretty eloquently there. There's just no love lost. I think those guys racing hard all season, which they have. It did finally come to a head where they made some contact last week. They were able to keep it clean so far. Don't think that that was any sort of contact to be thinking about later. But these two guys have been they're hard. We'll call them hard-headed. They're racers, right? They're gonna give it their all the time. They're gonna push hard. They're going to fight for these wins, and I think they're going to rub each other the wrong way a little bit as we go through the season, because they're so good. They're good at this stuff. They're going to be fighting against each other. It's it's something to see on our end, but it's no fun if you're in that driver's seat, kind of having that rivalry.
Yeah, Reynolds kissed the wall a little bit on the exit of turn 2 there, but I mean, like you say, those are two very good racers. They're got to be at the front of the field more often than not throughout the course of the season. Of course, as we've discussed all season long, Blake Reynolds coming from the Coke Series, Tyler Fode being the winningest driver here in this series. So this is probably something we're going to see throughout the season.
Man, Fode did not want to give the top line right there. He tried to keep him back.
Now Fode will clear by Chris Wright, who's fallen to 4th. Jonathan Cutlip's up to 2nd, right behind race leader Ethan Stanley. And I bring it up every broadcast. I'm kind of hoping we'll kind of reverse jinx him a little bit here, but Jonathan Cutlip is riding a very long winless streak in this Elite Belly Up Sports Cup Series. He has been at the front a lot and leads these races, runs very, very fast in these races. Here he comes, trying to challenge for the lead. Here comes Fode up top. Almost squeezed Tyler Fode in the wall, did Jonathan Cutlip right when I was talking about him. But, I mean, he just seems to find a way to lose the race. And not a lot of times it's not of his own making, but misery befalls him quite a bit. And here he is in the top 5 once again with clear pace. I think this is a car that can definitely contend for the win tonight, and it's just going to be a matter of keeping all the fenders on that 5 car and being there at the end where he can make a move.
Yeah, because you think back last week, he got some damage in an incident that kind of hindered him. You especially think back to the Brickyard and him getting taken out coming to the end of the stage 1. It's like he's been right up there, but just cannot catch the breaks he needs, and just adds those unfortunate incidents. But if he can get a clean race and catch a break or two, he will absolutely put that car back in victory lane if given the chance.
Tyler Fode going for the race lead on Ethan Stanley, using that top lane. Stanley continuing to run that middle to bottom groove. Everybody migrated up this lap.
I think you're going to see a lot of that throughout the course of the race. Just guys searching wherever they can find speed, or even just getting clean air on the nose of these race cars to get the best speed they can through these corners, especially. I mean, it's got changes in tires wear too. I mean, at this point, we're more than 20 laps into this run. The fall off is about, that's getting to about 0.6 of a second now for these guys compared to their fastest laps at the start of the race. So, that plays a factor too.
You're absolutely right. And, I'm a little, 20 laps, that's kind of when I was thinking Chris Wright was going to fall off. He's been able to stay there. And I'm wondering if what you just said, Zach, Cutlip sideways out of turn 2. I'm wondering if what you just said is helping Chris Wright a lot. He's been the only one to run that top lane. And if he slides up the track, that may be putting some clean air on the nose of that 9 car and maybe allowing that right front to turn a little bit better. Race control noting no tally between Hanshaw and Pocock.
My only concern is, at least what I've always been told and understood, is the fact that iRacing seems to be backwards in the sense to where running the top side is much harsher on your tires than running the bottom, which is the opposite of what you deal with.
Oh, we've got trouble on the backstretch. Trouble on the backstretch. It is Jeff Green. He's way off on the inside. That's not going to bring out a caution, but we'll see what happened to Jeff Green here. It looks like he did avoid the inside wall at least, but get another look at what caused the spin. It looks like he gets loose on corner exit there and then slides down in front of, that might have been David Tooker.
It was Tooker, and then into Chad Frankenfield here. I don't know how much damage Chad is going to have. I think he might have wrapped Ty McIntosh into this incident as well.
The crazy thing is Ty McIntosh might have actually gotten the worst end of it. He, in a weird way, because Jeff Green, like, probably this contact is harder between the 15 and the 2 in terms of force. But right here, when Ty McIntosh gets into it, he gets pretty squarely on the right front into the wall. So that's probably wheel damage that's got to really impact him for the rest of the evening.
He's got big fender damage on that lot in the live shot on for Ty McIntosh's car. I do know the sponsorship changed. You'll note Ty's in those 3 wide TV colors you might have seen on the Nick and Delicato number 10 earlier in the season. Ty shifted those colors over to his car and moved I believe it's the Design Ping sponsorship, yes, to Gilberto Javier Gomera, his teammate in the 85. So they retained the sponsorship despite Nick deciding that he was no longer going to run in the Elite Sport Belly Up Sports Cup Series. Oh, man, Gilberto got loose there on corner exit right when we started talking about him. Get it off him.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what's.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what's happened. And Zach, I think you were just about to say what I'm gonna. Matthew Weeks, R.C. Anderson, Trey Holmes, and Scott Crump have run down this lead pack with some very, very quick force. They're gonna, I think, catch and maybe even blow by these guys. They have saved their tires. Matthew Weeks, pretty famous for being a tire-saving king. He really does like to, run it, take it easy on the first 20 or so laps of a run, and then fire it up. Here he comes, getting in behind his teammate Ethan Burrell, and he's brought 2 Pro Edge Toyotas with him, and then Scott Crump, who's also saved his tires and has moved forward here.
Well, you mentioned Matthew Weeks. He won our most recent full distance race earlier this season at Indianapolis, and by my research before today's race, if I'm not mistaken, that was his 4th win in a full distance race here in the Belly Up Sports Cup Series. So no surprise to see him with that long run speed, and of course R.C. Anderson, another guy who's won a couple of these Crown Jewel events here in the Cup Series as well.
He got in behind Ethan Burrell, wound up on the bottom. That wound up pulling him back. As we watch Ethan Stanley and Blake Reynolds battle, it's going to be Anderson that fires through. He'll get up into the 6th spot, and it'll be Scott Crump pulling up to 7th. He's going to dive it underneath R.C. Anderson for that spot. Jonathan Cutlip's going for the lead, and the front pack kind of accordioning together has created some really good racing here.
No further action for the contact between Jeff Green and David Tooker.
Jeff is grateful for that. He's had a tumultuous season, to say the least.
Oh, for sure.
Do we have more points than Jeff still, unfortunately? I think we might.
Ooh.
I believe that is correct, yes.
You at home, you the viewer at home, have more points than Jeff Green right now.
Yes.
We'd call that the Chase Briscoe, but that penalty got rescinded.
Josh Adams a lap down. Did he hit? He did.
Yep.
Josh Adams is short pitted, I'll say. I'm guessing just to get off sequence here. He was mired in the middle of the pack. but I was curious. I just saw that he was near the back. You'll see the benefits of fresh tires here as Josh Adams going to try to pick up some track position by hitting a little bit early and trying to go after some stage points potentially. Let's bring that up. Stage will be at lap 45. Do you guys know if they can make it on fuel?
No. I don't know.
I think it's going to be close, but if Josh pitted there, I'm guessing they can't. I'm guessing they're going to have about 38 to 40 laps of fuel. Pushing hard. So, we're getting ready to have green flag pit stops here. I think, at least within the next 10 laps.
We also have this battle for the lead here.
Cutlip going after Tyler Fode. Looks like Blake Reynolds will give a push to Jonathan Cutlip down the back straightaway. Try to help that 5 car into turn 3. Stanley up top. Burrell to the bottom. Everybody fans out for these wide sweeping turns at Auto Club. Off forward. John Cutlip on the bottom. Fode with the side draft. One. Contact down the front straightaway. This isn't the stage lap, boys.
I was about to say, do they know that we still have a few more laps?
Probably. I just don't think they care.
Fode thought Cutlip. He saw Cutlip move out of the peripheral vision, move down, try and pull down, and so Fode went to move down to keep up with Cutlip and realized really late that Cutlip only moved a little bit. Jonathan does take the race lead away from Tyler Fode, but Fode challenging back on the inside. Rewide for the lead. Cutlip outside, Fode middle, Reynolds inside, Fode leads the lap, and Stanley giving his teammate a push. Here comes R.C. Anderson up top, last week's winner. Battling here. Oh, go ahead, Zach.
This is just incredible.
Oh, 3 wide for the lead now.
Still, Cutlip's going to clear by Fode. But yeah, these guys have been nice.
On, I'm guessing Cale Pocock, yes.
Yeah, it's going to be Cale Pocock. I think Cale was going to... Yeah, Cale's bailing to pit road right here to get out of the way.
Yep.
That'll allow John Cutlip to come through with the race lead. You got Fode and Stanley now drafting behind. Reynolds is fighting Anderson for 4th. Trey Holmes up into this fight up in 6th. And, those Pro Edge guys, they've interviewed with us and talked about Trey Holmes. Trey's really good at saving his tires. And he's pretty dang good at these 1.5-mile style, 2-mile tracks where you can, save your tires and, do different lanes. His first win in this Elite Belly Up Sports Cup Series was at Homestead, which is a track that runs fairly similarly to Auto Club, where you got high and low and you can run everywhere. Not surprised at all to see Trey Holmes having a good run here up in the 5th position, and he's had a bit of a rough start to the season as well. So good to see Trey Holmes finally fighting up here, I think, where was thinking he would fight at the beginning of the season.
Again, some really close racing up front there between Jonathan Cutlip and Tyler Fode. Now it's Fode on the inside as they wrap through turns 1 and 2. I don't know. He will not be able to clear Cutlip on the exit of turn 2.
No, he will not. They remain side by side, and that kind of has broken up these Lake Norman Chevys from being able to draft with one another. Stanley's in that top lane, Fode down on the bottom. Cutlip runs that middle. Blake Reynolds is going to be able to clear up in front of Ethan Stanley for that 3rd spot.
Just wild seeing the side-by-side racing. Like, these guys are side drafting like we're less than 10 to go in the race, let alone just less than 10 to go in stage 1.
Yeah, there's some intensity here that, maybe they can make it to the end of the stage. It seems unlikely from at least my running of other cars at Auto Club in the past couple of weeks. The truck can make it about 35 laps. I'm guessing the Cup car has a little bit longer of a fuel tank, but these guys are racing like they're going to be able to make it to the stage. Oh, Fode's loose on corner exit at turn 4. It's funny, when Tyler Fode gets that loose, he just pulls up in front of Ethan Stanley. Whenever I get that loose, I about wreck the car. I have to stop. Oh, Trey's blinking. you guys might have to correct me. Did we get the blinking flag in this latest update, and did that come out for hosted races, league races? I don't know that it's going to be available for the league races.
I feel like it's a in general thing. I feel like it's going to be something that comes out no matter what you're doing on iRacing. That isn't a private test, but I could very well be wrong on that, and I usually am on things. Speaking of being wrong, did he have blinking issues last week?
Yes, Trey was blinking quite a bit last week. Blake Reynolds has taken the lead. That side-by-side battle is side-by-side no longer. Reynolds back to the front for the championship points leader. Dave, you said we have the points graphic available to us. Maybe now's a good time to bring it up. There it is. Obviously, you've got Stanley, Fody, Burrell, and Weeks locked in on the graphic, but Reynolds has the most points at the moment. He's the best of the guys who have not won a race yet thus far, and Reynolds was really hoping, I think, last week to grab a race win. He's been quite hungry, and early on here, the early returns are he's been in the first one to jump out to any sort of lead, even just 0.2. It seems like a big lead here right now.
What sticks out to me is watching the bubble watch, to keep things consistent with it being March. Chris Wright, he's on the bubble 9 points out of making the playoffs, and he's fallen out of the top 10 in stage points. We saw him up there towards the front, battling for the lead, working those tires, and now it seems like it's time to pay the piper, and he's fallen back to 12th.
Yep. The good news for Chris, of course, is that his team is the guy he's fighting for that last bubble spot is Ryan Schold, who's sitting back in 35th right now. So still having a better day, I think. But yeah, you're right, James. He's kind of paying the price for abusing those tires early in the run, like we kind of mentioned, and we're worried that would be occurring.
Yeah, it's a net gain for him as it stands if things finish how they are now, but he could have really used the official gain of bringing home stage points, but unless something crazy happens, it might not be likely here for stage one.
I think you are correct. Here's Josh Adams on the bottom of the racetrack with 4 fresh tires. He pitted almost 20 laps ago now, but he's still significantly faster than these cars on track right here. Cut lip loose coming off turn 4, but as Adams goes to unlap himself, puts Adams in a pretty good spot right here. Looks like he's not going to parlay that into stage points this stage, but maybe he can run this stage long and parlay it into stage points on the next stage. That would seem to be a good thought for Josh Adams.
I was told there would be no math.
Yeah, if you ran about 27 laps, so if you could run, it looks like these guys can go at least 45 the way they're racing. As we do get some pitters, I think it's Corey Abbott down pit road, Ryan Gable also coming down pit road. So we are right on the window of pit stops here as we approach the end of the stage. Reynolds currently your race leader. Yeah, if you short pit, you're going to get out ahead of everybody. Might get a caution if things, get crazy once people start coming out on new tires. If not, you can try to run that thing a little bit long. You might still be net gained to where you were, and then you come down pit road and you're the way ahead by the time we get to that next stage. Justin Wadsworth's coming in according to the iRacing messages. That's a fairly sizable name as we approach the end of the stage. Leaders are all staying out.
The thing that sticks out to me, though, strategy-wise, is that the overcut, staying out later and pitting later seems to be really overpowered in iRacing, especially if we keep getting a long green flag run like, knock on wood, we're getting now. It's like, yeah, the guys that are pitting right now, they're going to have that advantage, that pace advantage early on, and they're going to gain some serious time on the guys that are still staying out. But I've seen it a number of times where you pit later, and that advantage that those guys get on the undercut evaporates almost instantly. Especially if you get that continued green flag run, the net gain for you staying out is going to be so much better than the guys who do that undercut. And even if we do get a caution, like right, I'm not going to say that because I really don't want to test my commentator's curse here. Oh man, and I almost did. A caution.
Coming to the stage here, James.
Yeah, you can finish up. My bad.
Yeah, no, Blake Reynolds is on his way to the end of the stage here, lap 45. And those guys tried to wreck on the back straightaway to Ethan Stanley and John Cutlip. Cutlip almost got a piece of the wall off turn 4 at the line. It will be Reynolds, and then across the line. Good luck, William White, with that one. Those guys were 4 wide coming across the stripe to find the stage. It looks like it'll be Ethan Stanley with second, Cutlip third, Weeks fourth, Burrell fifth, Enerson sixth, Holmes seventh, Crump 8th, Fody 9th, Tate Lytle with 1 stage point there in 10th.
Now if we could just get him to take a checkered flag like that.
That was, without spinning each other out, that was pretty good. Reynolds has opened up a half-second lead, though. He has been able to hold the lead without too much pressure here late in the run, and that's been very impressive.
Yeah, I think Cutlip getting loose off of 4 of those last few laps, running in second, making everyone kind of check up behind him, has been kind of got him a good gap. And now you're hoping, if you're the guys in that pack, that Stanley can kind of catch up and run him down.
Stanley's cut the lead to 4/10, but really hasn't been able to cut in past that. The clean air on the nose of that number 66 Toyota is really helping it. 3 wide still in that this big pack. Tyler Fody able to get around Scott Crump and Trey Holmes and try to make his way forward after finishing 9th in the stage. Oh, the Lake Norman Chevy's almost making that contact there in turn 2. They're still 3 wide down the back straightaway. Lytle up to the outside. He's the one on the move right now in the 56 car.
From a strategy standpoint, the thing that's catching my eye right now, we're going to see who hits here.
Stanley and Fody on pit road. 2 of our leaders.
Well, the thing that has me concerned for those people is you see a bunch of people pitting here. If you're one of those guys that pit at lap 40, or even before that, in the case of a Josh Adams, and you're seeing these guys go to 50, that's cutting out a pit stop.
That means they can do this race on 3 stops, probably. I mean, you just start, and now you need to save a little bit over the next run, right? Stay out of the throttle just a little bit longer to get just a little bit more out of your fuel tank. But as we finally have a cycle, here comes Jonathan Cutlip down pit road. We finally have a cycle of green flag pit stops under our belt, or at least we're on our way to. You got to start thinking, well, this race has undergone a green flag complexion. I've got to think about my next green flag pit stop. I've got to run this race backwards. How can I get to the end of this race with the fewest pit stops? It looks like 3 is going to be the key, just pitting at 50, 100, 150.
Yeah, that's definitely what it looks like we have here, based on how this first quarter of the race has played out, and the fact that our leader is still on the racetrack and with a few others as well.
Here comes Matthew Weeks. This time he's going to follow Blake Reynolds down pit road. Burrell and Lytle also following him in. Scott Crump and Trey Holmes have stayed out on the racetrack for 1 more lap.
And they are calling out that they will be pitting next time, so... But hey, that's 1 lap less, that gives you 1 lap fresher tires now, but like you say, if we stay green, that's 2 laps next time. That could be, it adds up as you go across a long green flag run. Any little bit you can stretch a fuel tank here.
And then if you are able to pit a little bit earlier, say, in the next cycle, or even potentially, most importantly, the final cycle, that could give you enough track position to hold the lead as we watch the big group coming off pit road featuring those Pro Edge drivers, Holmes and Crump down pit road. This time, that, I believe, will cycle the race over to Josh Adams for the race lead. And guys, that was our first green flag pit cycle since Daytona.
Hooray!
Man. Yeah, we were into one in Indianapolis, and R.C. Anderson got a little bit squirrely on a entry to pit road and spun onto the racetrack and brought out the yellow. But man, it's been a long time since we had a nice full, green flag cycle. Josh Adams pitted at lap 27. He will look to probably, I would assume, pit here at lap 60, 70. We got a spinner on the front straightaway. Tyler Fode is head on in the outside wall. That will be the yellow.
Whoa.
What happened? Jonathan Cutlip's got some damage.
We're under caution. It's close.
Good luck, William White. Weren't we just talking about this, James?
73 miles per hour.
Regarding Cutlip, keeping that car clean, keeping the fenders on it?
Yep.
Man.
We said if he could catch a break, he'd be one to watch out for. I don't think he caught that break.
Take us through this wreck, Zach. What do you see? If we get another replay here.
I don't know what I see. There's definitely a little bit of goofy netcode action there with the way that the cars kind of go inside of each other. It's hard to tell, especially since we need to pay the light bill here at Auto Club Speedway. But I feel like Cutlip kind of accidentally crowds Fode in the left rear there, and maybe that's where the contact starts. It's hard to tell, but definitely seems like a case of where maybe a little bit of that side drafting got just a little too carried away, and then obviously Fode's got to pay the price for it here.
Yeah, he goes head on in the fence. That's going to be some significant damage. And down pit road go Josh Adams, Ethan Stanley, and Blake Reynolds, among others. That's a little bit curious. Looks like just about half the field is pitted here. Scott Crump stayed out. Trey Holmes stayed out. Those guys had just come off pit road. This is a good time for us to take our break, so we will. But when we come back, we will, continue discussing that wreck, because that was a little bit curious.
Since 2010, race fans have had one burning question. When will the Xfinity Series return to Worldwide Technology Raceway? You asked, NASCAR delivered. On Saturday, September 6, 2025, the magic is back. The track that launched the legendary careers of Harvick, Busch, Keselowski, Edwards, and Earnhardt Jr. is now ready to write that next chapter. We're going to introduce you to a new crop of future champions and Hall of Famers. And in the process, we'll create more of the greatest moments in racing history. NASCAR Weekend 2025, the NASCAR Cup Series Championship Playoffs, the Confluence Music Festival, and now 250 miles of the NASCAR Xfinity Series. 2 incredible races, 1 challenging track, a 3-day party of epic proportions. Go to www.raceway.com and lock in your weekend racing and camping packages for as little as $20 down.
And welcome back to the California 400 here for the Belly Up Sports Cup Series. We've got one to green here, and we'll await William White, our new race controls call on that caution flag. Trey Holmes is your race leader. He's got his Pro Edge teammate Ethan Burrell restarting second. We did get a penalty for Gavin Hibbs on the green flag pit stop. He is one lap down. Unfortunately, he will not get the lucky dog for this caution as well, so Gavin will hope for a quick yellow on this. Behind Trey Holmes and Ethan Burrell, it is Scott Crump and Matthew Weeks, third and fourth. Best friends, I would say. Tate Lytle, fifth. Chris Wright will restart sixth. Leighton Norgard, seventh. Corey Abbott, eighth. Nick Massey, ninth. Seth Rawls in 10th. If you're wondering where Blake Reynolds and Ethan Stanley are, they are 18th. R.C. Anderson's 19th. Garrison Hogan's in 20th. Ethan Stanley, 22nd. Josh Adams came out 23rd after a short pit strategy call. Back up front, we got some new names. Taking the green flag is Trey Holmes. Leads us down to the green, and we'll see what these guys can do with their second stint here today. Green flag is out. Good start for Holmes. Good start for Lytle in behind Scott Crump. Looks like that fourth row was the one that didn't really get going. Big gap out there behind Lytle and Chris Wright.
Now we're going to find out how much of a difference even those 3 or 4 extra laps on those tires make here on this restart. And you can see them 4, maybe even 5 wide further back.
Ethan Burrell drove that outside lane. He takes the lead away from Trey Holmes. Now Scott Crump fires it in on the bottom of the racetrack. He'll look for second on Holmes, wash up the track a little bit. Maybe just a touch of contact between the 90 and 23, but everything stays clean off turn 4. That outside lane drafting well. It's Weeks pushing Holmes. Got Chris Wright in tow. Got Corey Abbott in tow. That'll push Trey Holmes clear of Crump. So to Matthew Weeks. Once again, and I talked about this at Michigan, you can see him down there on the bottom in the red car. Blake Reynolds makes quick work of traffic. If there's one thing I think this guy is just definitely better at, it's carving through traffic. You can see there's no Ethan Stanley anywhere on our screen right now, even though we're focused on Blake Reynolds. Oh, they're crashing off turn 4.
Caution.
I think it was Adams who got spun out. It was. He straightens the wheel, and he'll get going. He and Dustin Dewar got together. Dewar pushed up on corner exit and spun Adams sideways. Adams was able to save it onto the grass.
And avoided the pit cone, too. That's huge. Doesn't have to worry about a speeding penalty.
And I think there was an issue with Scott Crump as well.
Yeah, he's fallen way back here into the clutches of Hosack and Johnny Thomas. Oh, there's another spinner. Oh, no, never mind. That's the smoke. The tire smoke on the front straightaway. Some contact from Nick Massey there. Ooh, yep.
Nice little save right there.
Good save. Massey's up here fighting for 5th right now. And, you know, after how his last week went, where he was just getting kind of bottled up into every wreck, I think he's just taking an aggressive approach here, you know, given that he's got a little bit of track position after the way that pit stop cycle worked through. He's got a little bit fresher tires. So he's able to go after Tate Lytle right here, try and get around that 56 car. Lytle trying to throw the block on the 48. That's going to allow Seth Rawls and Blake Reynolds the top lane. Massey throws it in. I think the 48 car is going to clear into 5th.
I have a trivia question for you, David.
Is it the name of the whale?
No. No. I was going to spare you.
With
Do you know the driver that has at one time won 3 consecutive full distance races here in the Billy Up Sports Cup Series?
Is it the driver on screen right now making a pass for 4th?
Perhaps?
Nick Massey?
Yes.
He won a Daytona 500. It would make sense that he'd have locked one of these full distance races down.
Atlanta, at Daytona 500, and then Nashville.
Wow.
Between 2021B and 2022A.
And it's good to see Massey have some speed here, man. We talked about him all season long, whether it be for good or for bad. And it's been a lot more bad than it has been for good. Just think about what happened last week in New Hampshire. He was involved in every wreck, it seemed like, and ultimately finished, outside the top 20. And it was a really frustrating night. He said as much to me after the race. It's been a bit of a tumultuous season for him.
No, we got more trouble. I think that was Scott Crump as well. Looked like maybe contact with Tate Lytle.
Another car sideways there in turn 1. That was contact with Tate. Looked almost identical to the contact Scott had with Massey. Who was the other car sideways there? Back in the pack. You see the smoke?
I did see the smoke. I didn't catch that when it happened.
Gavin Higgins, maybe? It was Gavin Higgins. He went across the front bumper of Chad Frankenfield.
Amazing save on that one.
Yeah, Gavin is a wheel man. They're 3 wide for the lead. Ethan Burrell is in a South Shore sandwich right now. Chris Wright up top. Massey bailed out of running that bottom lane. Jumped in behind his teammate. Now he'll drive in behind Ethan Burrell. How about Seth Rawls? Jumped up to 4th. And a whole mix of new names fighting for the race lead here on lap 63 of the California 400. At the line, it will be Chris Wright up here taking the race lead away from Ethan Burrell. Massey, his teammate, in tow. And then it's Seth Rawls in the 25 trying also to clear by Ethan Burrell. They're 3 wide for the lead again. Down the back straightaway.
So now where do you go if you're, Ethan Burrell, Matthew Weeks? Weeks goes to the bottom here, but, I mean, there's just high, low, in the middle.
There's so many lanes, but they can get all stuffed up. As Nick Massey drives around his teammate Chris Wright and then Seth Rawls for the race lead. I want to say that was the first lap Massey's led all season. He might have led one at Daytona, but it is very refreshing to see a guy that Zach just mentioned, being a really competitive driver in this Elite Belly Up Sports Cup Series, back up in the front of the field and racing against some guys, like Seth Rawls, just haven't seen up here all season. Rawls hunting the lead on the bottom of the racetrack. He's going to have Blake Reynolds in tow. Reynolds has carved through the field pretty quickly here, and loose off turn 4. He'll jump in line in front of Chris Wright. Wright doesn't want to stay in behind him. He jumps to the inside of Blake Reynolds. Rawls led the lap. Here comes Weeks to the bottom. Reynolds stayed up top. Rawls trying to cut that outside lane. Massey will get in behind him. Reynolds in behind Massey. I think you'll see Blake Reynolds cut it to the bottom right here and try to dispatch both of these guys in one corner.
Here we go. Massey on the inside there. Couldn't quite make that work.
These guys are really throwing it into the corner right now. Massey made a absolute beeline entering turn 3 last time. He made it again entering turn 1 this time. He is really flinging that 48 car around. You've got Blake Reynolds also doing that similar move. Just behind them, how about Johnny Thomas in car 83?
And Johnny wasn't one of those drivers who pitted under that caution. He's doing this on the quote-unquote older tires. I know it's just a couple of laps, but I mean, he's staying up there on those tires that he took on at lap 50 and making it work at the moment.
He's doing a great job. He's fought his way forward, right? Like this is, Johnny, Massey, Wright, Rawls, they have fought their way forward. And that's, a big testament to them. And what the caution did is it really shuffled the field up. It got things where, it's not just our typical names running at the front again. As we watch Massey kind of watch Blake Reynolds push Seth Rawls through and clear to the lead. He'll dive it back in on the bottom. This is as aggressive as I've seen Nick Massey in this next-gen car since it kind of first dropped there and he was winning races.
Yeah, you love to see it. You love to see him, getting an opportunity to really kind of fight and hang on to this lead pack, and he's getting his money's worth. He is running absolutely fantastic right now.
Yep. Blake Reynolds diving it into turn one, going to try and clear past Seth Rawls. Give it to Blake Reynolds, car 66, back to the race lead once again. The points leader continues his assault on the Elite Cup Series, trying to grab that first win, but so too is Seth Rawls. Drives it into the bottom. They make contact.
Whoa.
Rawls bailed out of it. That'll allow Massey to jump to the top with his teammate. John Cutlip also entering this fray. The right front damage from the contact with Tyler Fody appears to be fixed on that 5 car. And Cutlip is now going to dive to the inside of the South Shore Fords and move to that second spot.
See, this time Matthew Weeks sending it in there, the third car back on that inside lane.
I think these guys have started to watch what Blake Reynolds is doing. That Matthew Weeks doesn't usually make a move like that. He's very vocal about wanting to keep the car under him, save his tires, play for the long run. That was a very aggressive move, very deep send for Matthew Weeks. And I think he's just been paying attention. That's what it takes to win in this next-gen car right now, especially at these big tracks. And it ultimately hasn't worked out for him. Garrison Hogan got back around him, but I like seeing it from Matthew Weeks.
Yeah, racing's such a bunch of copycats, isn't it? Monkey see, monkey do. You see something work for someone else, and you're like, well, heck, I have to do that now, because you see it work for them. It's like, all right, it's got to work for me. Whether or not that actually is the case, which it kind of is and kind of isn't for Weeks, but, still sitting in P6 right now.
Yeah, Weeks is going to be fine, but he we've seen Blake Reynolds handle business when he's moving through the field, utilizing that aggression, and it allows him to continue running at the front of the field in the clean air when the run starts to get long. So he figures, I think I can burn a little more tire at the beginning of the run and then save a little more in the middle part of that run to where I can still be strong at the end of the run. I think that's a very reasonable thought process. Obviously, Blake Reynolds, far more talented driver than you or I, and I'm just trying to report on what I'm seeing. But, that's something that these guys around him are certainly going to, see and then copycat, like you said, James.
The first one was, I don't know about this.
But, yeah, and what really seems to be the underrated part of Blake's skill set, I think, going back to what you're saying, is his ability to save in that middle run. Because we look how aggressive he is, and he doesn't miss a beat. Like, he's still running as fast and as consistent towards the later end of the run as he is at the beginning. And that's just kind of mind-boggling because we see how aggressive he is. And again, we're like, if I tried doing that, my tires would be on cords like 15 laps later. But he's able to make it work and keep that longevity. And it's because of his ability to kind of keep the car under him and just kind of cool the tires off, reel it back in after he gets where he wants to go and where he needs to go.
Yeah, it's we're experiencing a little bit of technical difficulties on our end, so what we're going to do is roll this race kind of radio broadcast style as best we can and see if we can't get these issues to fix. I believe it's due to the lights turning on. I'm seeing some blinking issues from guys like Ethan Stanley. So definitely problems for iRacing as we enter the nighttime. And once I think the night shifts over, that'll help Dave's and then everybody else's stream to run a little bit better. We'll be able to get back to racing here. But right now, Blake Reynolds, the race leader, Jonathan Cutlip, along with him, Matthew Weeks running third in front of Chris Wright. Massey has fallen back into the clutches of Garrison Hogan, and Massey, Hogan, and Johnny Thomas are 3 wide in turn 3, Zach.
They sure are, and I mean it's getting real aggressive around here, and trying to keep up with everything that's going on the track. But right now, Blake Reynolds still leading the way, and Seth Rawls has got to look to the inside of Matthew Weeks for the 3rd position. Can't quite make it stick, and then that's got to fall back to your 3 wide you were talking about. Chris Wright is on the outside. Johnny Thomas gets a big push there from Ethan Burrell. It doesn't help that even with me not blinking, it's hard to, I mean, you can see from this overhead shot the lights are not as strong as they normally would be here on iRacing. I don't know if it's something with the update we had yesterday or what, and I'm doing everything I can to identify the cars on my screen because it's just so dark.
Yeah. This is an iRacing issue. This isn't one of our guys for sure. We apologize, obviously, for this gap in action. We'll do our best to continue to bring it to you as Blake Reynolds continues to lead over Jonathan Cutlip, Matthew Weeks, and Seth Rawls. They are single file. Johnny Thomas has cleared around Chris Wright. So too has Ethan Burrell, and they've single filed out through 10th spot. At this point, it's a battle for that. It's a battle for 10th between Trey Holmes and Ethan Stanley. Leighton Norgard and R.C. Anderson also in that fight for 10th. And Ethan Burrell has also jumped to the inside of Johnny Thomas here as we maybe try to jump back in and see if racing's going to be nice to us.
It looks like definitely the blinking has subsided some on Huck's screen. You can still see it's really just hard to make out what's happening, but if we can at least get these live pictures to work with us, it'll help tell the story for the fans watching on the Elite Racing Network for sure.
And you can see Ethan Stanley is having to bail out of the pack right now. He is experiencing big time blinking, almost in sync with Dave's, like where that car just kind of is beeping in and out. I really do think that there's, I don't know if they maybe messed up the sunset changeover where it's really strenuous on certain PCs, but Stanley clearly having problems. Dave's obviously having some issues. There's other drivers complaining about it.
I don't know how they can see where they're going. Can we go on board with somebody? It could even be, Cutlip or somebody up front, so we aren't putting a bunch of cars on the screen. Here's your leader, Blake Reynolds. He can't see anything.
It's dark.
That's dark. That's really dark.
It reminds me of. Do you remember when the Talladega race? I think it was Talladega. Maybe it was Kansas. Ended just really late, where it was basically pitch black. Yeah. This is kind of how it reminds me.
Yeah, the 2013 race. If we're talking about what I think we're talking about, right?
There've been a couple. Yeah, there've been a couple. That's a good one. I want to say the Kansas race where. I think it was Greg Biffle won. It was out of gas on that. It was dark. They ended the race early.
And the Brickyard 2017 when Kane pulled off the miracle. Greatest race ever, by the way. Completely not biased at all. Nope, no sorry.
All right, let's see if we can go on board with. Give me Chris Wright. I'll throw David a bone. Okay, well. Yeah, so that's how close he is. You can barely make out the car in front of him. I can't tell you who it is, but there is a car in front of him. I think that was actually...
Trey Holmes.
It is Trey Holmes? See, that would not been even my guess. And that's how limited the visibility is. You can make out Nick Massey's car really well because of the light blue. But some of these darker cars, it's really a struggle to even see where they are right now. Oh, there's some sparks. Somebody found the wall, which also, fortunately, has painted that light blue here at Auto Club.
Yep. Up front, Matthew Weeks has taken the lead over from Blake Reynolds in driver 11. Garrison Hogan has also ascended to fourth amidst the darkness woes, which is a weird one that I never thought we were going to run into on an iRacing broadcast. And then also the transition woes with computers. Ethan Stanley has fallen all the way to 17th right now, trying to find a suitable spot where he can run without impeding others with the blinking problem. There's not a whole lot anybody can do in the middle of a race to try and alleviate that, so it's a difficult spot for everybody to be in.
The fact that we haven't wadded a bunch of cars up under these circumstances is really impressive, I have to say. I mean, these guys are going, 175, 180 miles an hour and can barely see where they're going. It looks like maybe we're starting to get a little bit more.
I think we are. I think now we're getting into
a little bit more light.
You know what I think? It looks like they set up the lights to gradually come on as big stadium lights would do. But they didn't turn them on when it was still day like you would in a stadium if you had a race that was going to go from day to night like this. It's almost what it looks like. They flipped them on, and it took them a minute to get up.
See, I'm thinking it's just they're not powerful enough. So you didn't notice them even being on until it finally got dark enough for it to do what little bit it's doing.
Yeah, because it feels like we're just getting like 5 flags levels of not great lighting.
It does still look dark, but it's not nearly as bad. Chris Wright's coming down pit road. This is early, but Chris is known to a little abuse the tires.
Inching out his sun.
Up front, Blake Reynolds took the lead back from Matthew Weeks.
I wonder if... Yeah, I don't know. I'm trying to figure out, other than maybe just burning off the tires, would that be a play to try and get out front for the stage if we go green here? Yeah, I don't know.
The stage is 125, right?
125. Ooh. So you can make it to the stage from here, or 120, excuse me. So you could definitely make it to the stage from here.
Matthew Weeks got the piece of the wall right there. But yeah, I think this is a play for Chris to try and get fresh tires for the stage. But yeah,
then if it does go green, yeah, I don't know.
Well, we'll see what happens.
We'll see what happens. Who knows? At this point with the light situation, maybe you're playing it like there's rain in the forecast. I don't know.
Lights shut off and
get
end
out
the race
front
early
before the race gets cut off. Right? I don't know. Who knows?
Johnny Thomas down pit road in the 83 car. He also was, I will say, abusing the tires a little bit more than he's accustomed to. Yeah, I think there's a distinct possibility that Chris just wants to get off cycle any way he can. He likes to, I think, be in a funky strategy. Makes the race more entertaining for him. So that could certainly be the move. Could certainly be, a play for the points. We'll have to find out.
And if you don't think that you're in a position to straight up battle wheel to wheel with some guys for the win, sometimes having to try those crazy strategies might be your way to be up there and battling for the win. Like Larry Mack says, if you follow the leader, you're going to follow the leader. And I know personally speaking, I don't always have the race winning pace, so I'm always looking to find whatever other advantage I can, whether it's tire save, fuel save, random strategy, or what have you, to try to get those last little tenths I'm missing and pull off a crazy win.
Yeah, I think that's a good point. We're going to see it from other guys. Nick Massey's obviously come down pit road. You just caught him at the corner of your eye there as we rolled through. Blake Reynolds still the leader. His teammate Garrison Hogan has entered the discussion, and he slices up to the top in behind Jonathan Cutlip, but Now, this is the first time I think that Blake Reynolds has had some team help up here at the front of the field. Garrison Hogan has been pretty far back in his races so far here in the Elite Belly Up Sports Cup Series to start this season. And I think, Garrison's very fast, multi-time winner in this series, a guy that I expect to contend for wins, and he just hasn't so far this season. But here he is in the top 5 as we approach halfway in this race.
He's got a couple of these full distance race wins, including a Daytona 500 win in the 2023 A season. So definitely another one of those guys you kind of aren't surprised to see him rise to the top here over the long run. But like you say, it's been such a struggle this season for Garrison Hogan, and here he is mixing it up with the leaders.
Yep. This is a whole bunch of guys that I have kind of expected to fight for a win here. A lot of Pro Edge Toyotas in this mix. Tate Lytle jumping to the bottom around Garrison Hogan. That's a guy who's actually struggled a little bit this season, has Tate Lytle. A couple of weeks in a row where he just has not had the luck that you'd expect from a guy who's a 3-time champion in this series. He's going to dive it to the bottom, though. He's looking for second, I think, coming off turn 2.
Here goes Cutlip. He's got to size up Blake Reynolds for that top spot. Dive it into turn 3. He's definitely out front now. Can he stay in front of Blake Reynolds? Will the crossover be? Oh, no, he's clear by a car length or 2.
Weeks got a piece of the wall again off turn 4. That's the second time. Cutlip able to lead the lap, but Reynolds diving it into turn 1. The 66 car's done this quite a bit. Should have the lead going down the back straightaway. John might have got a piece of the wall there. These cars are starting to drive a little bit squirrely.
I love it. Squirrely race cars while trading sliders. This is what you love to see.
Reynolds tries to pinch Cutlip down. Cutlip won't be able to clear by Blake Reynolds this time. There is a gap behind Reynolds, but Tate Lytle might go ahead and give it push to John Cutlip. Nope, no push at all. Here comes Tate Lytle for the race lead. He's going to have Trey Holmes in tow.
That was a psych if I've ever seen one.
I'm going to push you. No, I'm not. Tate Lytle off turn 2. He'll have the lead down the back straightaway. Trey Holmes is going to have to jump in line behind those guys. Here comes Reynolds fighting back on the bottom.
And just file it away. Lytle, another one of those guys who pitted at lap 50 rather than under the caution at lap 53. And still almost 50 laps into this run, able to battle for the lead with Blake Reynolds here.
Yeah, go on, Dave.
I was going to say, Tate wasn't one of the ones dicing it up for the lead when it was Massey, Seth Rawls, and those other guys dicing it up. Tate was saving his stuff, and this is why, right? He wants to be able to go up here and get as much of a lead as he possibly can at the end of the run to be able to push forward in the start of the next cycle.
It was absolutely necessary too, because like what I was talking about earlier, he was at a big disadvantage with him staying out on those older tires, because even those little handful of laps on the tires, that's still a lot of pace loss at a track that's so terrible on tire wear like Fontana. So he had to, if he had any hope of battling.
Ethan Stanley down pit road. If we can go back to the battle for the lead here. Reynolds is sideways off turn 2. He will lose, I think, the lead to Tate Lytle here. Chris Wright on those fresh tires did drive up past these leaders. Nick Massey's about to follow suit, and that may put a bit of a wrench in this battle for the lead.
There you see Nick Massey in that light blue on the very bottom. I'd tell you what number is on the car, but you wouldn't be able to read it.
It's too dark for that.
It's fine. We can still make out Chiba on that car.
There we go.
Yes, yeah. Lytle is able to
right
retain.
behind Jonathan Cutlip now on that bottom lane, as Harrison Talon is going to call out he is pitting. I think we're going to start hearing more and more of that over these next few laps.
Yeah, we're approaching that lap 50 mark. We did hear some guys, we did see some guys come down pit road after that lap 50 mark once we got the yellow flag. So my thought is some are going to try and stay out past the 50 lap mark on this one. One of those guys is Blake Reynolds, but he keeps getting really squirrely. Tate's driving away from him right now, and I'm wondering if maybe Blake has used up the tires on that 66 car. I promise it says 66, even though we can't see it.
You might be right, but if he wants to pit, he's got to get off that high side, and I don't think he's going to be able to do it right now without falling behind Johnny Thomas and
Chad?
I think that's Chad Frankenfield, who I'm sure.
Chad's deciding it's time to go 3 wide with Johnny Thomas in the second place car. That's not one that I'd necessarily advocate for as you try to unlap yourself. Johnny's going to go up to the top in behind Tate Lytle, the race leader. Elliot Norgard unlapped himself as well. Now it's Johnny and Chad going to try and find their way by Tate Lytle. Back in the field, we did have, I think that's Brent Jones come down pit road. Sure is.
Believe you.
Chad and Johnny do clear past Tate Lytle. And that single files this first 8 or so cars out. Then another second or so back to a tandem duo of David Tooker and Justin Wadsworth there in 9th and 10th. But yeah, and pretty much right now, these guys are probably just going to try and make it as many laps as they can and then come down pit road and then fight for the stage win.
Yeah, I think that's the move. Go ahead and run this as long as you can. Even if it hurts you a little bit on the battle for the stage compared to some of these guys who hit early, that's got to put you in the best position for where it really matters, the end of the race.
And you can divide this next stage in half. Those guys are going to have to run one of them long or potentially run an extra pit stop in there. And that won't work, I don't think. And, you know, that's where trying to stay out, run this race backwards is going to really help the group that you see on screen. Here comes Ethan Burrell.
Ethan Burrell down pit road. David Tooker was, I believe, the car behind him.
He was. Seth Rawls also down pit road here. Seth definitely burned the tires up on that 25 car racing for the lead, but he did get some laps led. RC Anderson used a little bump draft from Blake Reynolds to jump up to the Tate Lytle machine. He will now be going for the lead as RC Anderson chases 2 wins in a row. Last week's winner at New Hampshire up to the top spot here at Auto Club.
Well, he definitely told us he likes these flatter tracks, and the track record, no pun intended, for RC Anderson reflects that, and here he is up front again here tonight. Oh, couldn't tell if, yeah.
Took the lane away from Blake Reynolds. I think he put some air wake on the nose of the 66 and it washed it up, but there was nowhere up to go for Blake Reynolds and he almost smacked the wall.
We'll see who pits this time around. Out of this lead group. Nope.
Ethan Stanley is the blue car there on the bottom trying to unlap himself. Pit stop update. Tyler Fody down pit road. Jeff Green. Gilberto. Dusty. I can't tell who the last one was. Oh, it was Michael Goodman. And Carlos Acosta. That shot going back onto pit road, that's the shot that I can't tell who's who. I do not know.
Well, Tate Lytle, I can tell you, is coming down pit road this time, as is
Yep.
Matt.
Oh!
I think, did someone spin on pit road?
I didn't see anything. I guess not. Maybe they burned out exiting pit road. I couldn't tell. You might have seen something. I didn't see anything.
Yeah, I swore I saw someone get sideways pulling out of their pit box.
Let's see if the race leader comes in this time. Yes, here comes RC Anderson down pit road. Reynolds, Holmes, Cutlip, this whole group coming down. Garrison Hogan stays out another lap. Scott Crumps on pit road as well. turn the lead over to Garrison Hogan for the time being. He will be the last car, I believe, that has not hit pit road under this cycle. The race lead, once Hogan pits, will go to Nick Massey.
Paul Mikolajczyk has a black flag for me.
Oh,
I believe that may have been speeding on pit entry.
I'm honestly shocked that only Paul and Gavin Hibbs have been caught by that. This is a tough pit road entry to get onto. And then you couple that with a 50-lap run in this next-gen car, those big brakes. It's certainly going to be easy to slide that right front on the entry of pit road.
Yeah, he was 70 miles an hour at pit entry. That is definitely too much.
That'll do it.
That will do it. Norgard fights through to second. That battle for second is absolutely ferocious behind Nick Massey. There's 20 laps to go until we hit the stage mark. You know, it may not work for this tandem of 5
14.
to... No, 14. Oh, yeah, we're 120, not 125. So it may not work for this entire group of 5 to gain some stage points. But I'll say I think Nick Massey's going to get some stage points. He'd be the one, I think, of this group of 5. I feel pretty confident we'll be able to scrounge up at least one stage point here in 14 laps.
Yeah, because they still have a big gap to the cars that were leading at the tail end of the pit cycles. Like Tate Lytle is still like 9 seconds back. Like
that'll close quick.
It'll close quick. But it's going to be close. Like 13 laps, it's still not a lot of time for them to catch up. It's definitely gonna be close, but yeah, I'm not gonna say what I think I want to say because no commentators curse, but we'll just see what happens.
Leighton Norgard is cutting into that lead for Nick Massey right here. We'll keep our eye on the ticker there. I think the first car on the freshest tires will be Ethan Burrell in that 37 in 7th place. He's 7 seconds behind Nick Massey. So that'll be, I think, the bar that's going to have to be set. Behind him, it'll be Tate Lytle, RC, Blake Reynolds. You got Tooker and Weeks. That whole group is in a big pack. About 9 seconds behind race leader Nick Massey, but they are gaining in a hurry. If this long green flag run was a disappointment for anyone, I think the disappointment would have to go to Gavin Hibbs, who sped on pit road just before the yellow came out, was assessed the penalty during the caution, so he wasn't able to get the lucky dog wave around, and then no caution flag has assisted that 95 car in getting back on the lead lap.
Really close there between Johnny Thomas and Chad Frankenfield for the 3rd spot. And this is now Chad Frankenfield will clear by, but I mean that's got to allow Chris Wright, I believe, to just kind of roll right up on these guys.
Yep, and Stanley is just behind with still some blinking problems. The gap is not closing as quickly as I thought. They might have a chance to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 in the stage here.
Yeah, Tate only gained like maybe a second in the last 3 laps.
So yeah, and that will help over the course of the long run. Don't get me wrong, right? This is a very temporary situation for this group. You can see you've got Blake Reynolds, Tate Lytle, RC Anderson, all these guys trying to hunt their way back up towards the lead, and they'll get there for sure. I think there's no doubt about that. The question at this point is, can Nick Massey survive 10 more laps here with the Leighton Norgard, Johnny Thomas, Chad Frankenfield, Chris Wright? They are looking for those stage points. A lot of these guys are on the bubble that you mentioned earlier, James. They're looking to try and maximize the points day. Obviously, they may not finish as high as they otherwise wanted to tonight, but The goal is to maximize the points and finishing in the top 10 in the stage. It's a great way to do that. And right now, Nick Massey and Leighton Norgard are in a really good spot. Ethan Stanley is driving past Chris Wright, Chad Frankenfield, and Johnny Thomas. I think those guys might have burned their stuff up really badly when they were racing side by side earlier.
Yeah, obviously lap 130, lap 140, things are going to be a bit difficult for them grip-wise, but if you're Nick Massey, Norgard, you're not worried about lap 30 right now. You're only worried about lap 20. Whatever happens after that, that's the future's problem. You're just focused on bringing home those stage points.
Battle for the lead for the stage. A Leighton Norgard shovels to the inside of Nick Massey down on the bottom of the track. I think Norgard's going to bypass Massey here. Massey tries to hold on to the top. He will not do it. Give the lead to a Leighton Norgard with 7 laps to go in the stage. Massey's, I think, pitted before Norgard, so his tires are going to be significantly worse right now than the 12 cars.
I would say significantly worse. Massey pitted on 88, Norgard on 89.
Okay, 1 lap worse.
Ethan Stanley pitted at 95, so he's the next one you got to worry about, but also he's got to worry about his machine keeping him connected to this motorsport contest.
Yeah, he's fighting against the rest of the field and his computer.
That's never what you want. 6 to go in the stage. Massey still able to keep pace with Norgard. But right now, Norgard has that clean air. Massey running in the wake of the 12 car. That's not going to help the handling of those tires. Ethan Stanley has dropped that lead down to 8/10. He is coming quickly.
Yeah, he's about 4/10 quicker than these top 2 drivers at the moment. He'll get there, I believe, and with how wide this racing surface is, I would think he shouldn't have an issue getting around that top 2. It would just be a matter of, you know, can he get around both of them, or are they gonna start, you know, running side by side and clogging up the track a little bit?
Yeah, and another thing they're gonna have to keep in mind, because of the fact that they're starting to battle and slow each other up a little bit, Reynolds, Anderson, Lytle, they're coming onto the scene a lot quicker than they were just a couple laps ago. It is flirting with 5 seconds now.
That won't be. I don't think they're going to have enough time to get up to the win of this stage. I think it will be between the 3 drivers you see on screen right now for the stage win. Ultimately, Norgard has that clean air. Stanley's got the freshest tires. Let's see how it plays out. Here comes Ethan Stanley to the bottom. Norgard kind of left it up to the top. I think that might be all she wrote for his chances as Stanley works the bottom. The car's a little bit loose.
Yeah, it didn't quite work that time through 1 and 2.
Nick Massey able to hold up on the outside lane, trying to maximize the pace down these long straightaways. Stanley works that middle lane once again. Massey up top, barely scrapes the wall, doesn't lose any momentum. They're still side by side for second. Norgard loving what he's seeing. 3 to go in the stage.
Now Stanley goes to the high side.
Yep, I was going to say, right now, Stanley switches over on Nick Massey. Massey is going to be able to clear up and drive in front of Ethan Stanley. And I think this is just showing you the power of fresh air, right? Clean air. That's what this is. Ethan Stanley got to the back bumper. These guys got in the wake. All of a sudden, this 91 car started to handle a little bit worse. And now he can't bypass him, even though he was much quicker in clean air. Two to go. Big shove from Stanley to Massey. Nick Massey's going to look to the inside on Norgard, but I think Stanley might have just been shoving Massey out of the way.
Man.
Massey's still on the bottom of the racetrack. Stanley up top. Stanley's going to look to the outside of a Leighton Norgard here in turn 3. Coming out of turn 4, they're still too wide. Massey and Stanley still side by side behind a Leighton Norgard. 2 laps to go in the stage this time.
2 laps to go in the stage, and Ethan Stanley still trying to find a way around a Leighton Norgard for this stage win.
Norgard fighting really strong, running a very smooth line up at the top of the racetrack, but he's not running that very top lane. Almost got him in trouble right there. He got sideways, went up the track. That did not work. Stanley's going to have a shot here going into turn 3. He dives that 91 car down on the bottom of the track. I don't think that's going to do it. Stanley's going to be short. He'll be side by side with Norgard, but that outside lane is usually pretty strong down these straightaways. White flag in the stage. Stanley trying to go to the outside here, maybe set up a big run down the back straightaway and try and bypass Norgard going into turn 3. Norgard trying to block that off. Cut the draft.
Should get my Dale Jr. voice going. Slide jump! Slide jump!
Here comes Nathan Stanley down on the bottom of the track. Will it be enough for 10 stage points? It might be. Stanley's fighting back on the bottom at the start-finish line. It will be a Leighton Norgard. And there's the caution.
Wow.
They were fighting for 10th in the stage further back, and the net result, Chris Wright goes around at the exit of turn 4.
That is going to work super well for these guys who just went for the stage. Let's see what happened here.
They're 4 wide here. And there's the contact between Garrison Hogan and Chris Wright.
9 cars sideways on the front straightaway.
And like I said, that was right in that battle because Trey Holmes came away with 10th for the stage. We'll give, Cutlip 11th, Johnny Thomas 12th.
Oh.
Wow.
Interesting.
Wow.
So what I'd have to assume happened there is he was going to, since he had already missed out on the top 10, Chad was going to duck onto pit road, get some freshies, and maybe split this second stage 40 and 40. And then he hears caution, 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 and has to bail because, yeah, you can see the red lights are on the left-hand side. So the pit road had closed, the caution was out, and he had to take that move to not enter a closed pit.
That'll work. That'll work. He found a way. Didn't get penalized. He'll lose all that track position because he would have. Yep. You do. You need to wait and let those cars by. If you pull up in front of somebody and they run into you, that is an additional incident there. Ultimately, an awkward spot for Chad to be sitting. Here comes everybody down pit road. And, seriously, what a great timed caution for Nick Massey, Leighton Norgard, Ethan Stanley. These guys are all going to be right up at the front now with track position.
Yeah, that has played out perfectly for them because pretty much everybody's got to split this with one more stop the rest of the way if we go green from here.
While we run this caution, why don't we take an ad break and we'll come back and do our ad reads and then get back for the restart here as everybody's on pit road and we're still kind of experiencing some gremlins with iRacing tonight. So we'll be right back.
3 years of sellout crowds, 3 years of edge of your seat action, 3 years of jaw-dropping finishes. Worldwide Technology Raceway has rocked the world of NASCAR, and now NASCAR is giving us another reason to celebrate. The 2025 NASCAR Cup Series Championship playoffs are coming Sunday, September 7th, 2025. Just when you thought the racing couldn't get any more intense, now every single lap matters. One wrong move could be the difference between elimination and being crowned the king. The Enjoy Illinois 300, the Confluence Music Festival, the NASCAR Cup Series playoffs, and for the first time in 15 years, the NASCAR Xfinity Series on Saturday, September 6th. Don't be on the outside looking in. See history being made in your own backyard. Go to www.raceway.com for the hottest ticket of the year.
Racing isn't easy, but experiencing it is. iRacing puts you in the driver's seat with the industry's leading sim racing game. Drive on laser scan replicas of the greatest racing circuits from around the world. Go head-to-head against other drivers chosen by skill-based matchmaking to ensure competitive racing at every level. Compete.
See if we're fixed. Welcome back to the California 400. Ethan Stanley won the race off pit road. He'll be joined on the front row by Ethan Burrell. Blake Reynolds and Nick Massey will be there in row 2. R.C. Anderson and Tate Lytle in row 3 with David Tooker and Matthew Weeks in row 4. Stage 2 winner Leighton Norgard there in row 5 alongside Trey Holmes. Pace car will dip in, and as we reset, everybody will have 4 fresh tires and probably 1 stop to the end of the race. Let's see how this one plays out. The green flag is out for stage 3. Ethan Stanley is on the loud pedal, and we are racing once again here. Lap 125 of 200, about 75, 76 laps to go.
And it'll be very interesting to see how this all shakes out over these final 75 laps. Right now, Ethan Stanley able to break out in front, and it is going to get crazy behind him.
I'm wondering if the intensity level will ramp up here. These guys already answering that question. The answer is absolutely. 3 and 4 wide mid-pack up front, single file, until you get to the battle for 5th. That's between Nick Massey and Tate Lytle. Up front, the battles for the lead with Blake Reynolds and Ethan Stanley. And these two have already had a couple of run-ins this season.
Johnny Thomas got into the wall, and there may have been contact with Jonathan Cutlip. And they are 97 wide in that part of the pack.
Tumbling down the running order is Jonathan Cutlip. 4 wide there with Brent Jones, Michael Hosek, Jeff Green, Carlos Acosta. They're going to keep it straight. There's enough room for that here at Auto Club, and that's one of the best things about this place.
The race chat is getting very spicy with all this hard racing. Oh boy. Elbows are going up, boys.
Gavin Higgins just got a piece of the wall. Ryan Gable, Tyler Fode, Johnny Thomas, all working down the middle in that draft. Jonathan Cutlip fell all the way back to 22nd after that contact you mentioned, Zach. So that's a heavy hill to climb, I think, for the driver of the 5 car. Up front, Blake Reynolds did take the lead away from Ethan Stanley. Ethan Burrell hanging right with those two as well. Reynolds, Stanley, the battle for 3rd between R.C. Anderson and Ethan Burrell. Then David Tooker has entered the top 5 for the first time today here. These Pro Edge Toyotas are really numerous at the front of the field right now.
Sounds like maybe some kind of issue for Nick Massey. He says he's keeping his car low while he's, I guess it was blinking, but he looks good on our end.
Yeah, Massey's good. He needs to... Oh, yellow flag's out.
Uh-oh.
I didn't see it, but...
Scott Crump is going to be the car with trouble. Kyle Hanshaw's also slow on the back straightaway, but I think he's going to come in contact with the Scott Crump car.
Oh, he's got
Oh,
overcorrect.
no.
Right, Right there. Yep. There it is. Hanshaw into the wall and into Crump. Looks like he just got loose before Caleb Bakumer ever got there. And that car snapped back to the right when he was trying to correct it.
Yeah. Said it 1,000 times. It's so easy to do that in that car. Sometimes you think you have it figured out, and then all of a sudden it goes, nah, we're overcorrecting, and just shoots you back up to the outside wall.
Interesting question here. You can't make it on one more stop. You're going to have to pit again. But there's a lot of tires sitting in the pits. I'd probably come down pit road, try to get an extra set on the car if I was, 11th on back.
I
Where's
think
Chris?
I think it's worth considering. I think it looked like maybe some guys were thinking about it, or at least pretending.
Chris Wright, Johnny Thomas, Jonathan Cutlip. Cutlip's a really good option for that strategy. Just throw 4 tires on it. See if you can't roll forward and push your way back up front.
If nothing else, it'll shorten up the runs you have to make here, right? Instead of going 40 and 40, maybe you go 35 and 35, or even less than that by the time we get restarted. And any little bit you can have that fresher tire than your competition will help out.
Absolutely. So let's go ahead and do our ad reads here, Dave. If you want to take the
Okay. Blue Egg Marketing. Rev up your business with Blue Egg, your marketing pit crew. Turbocharge your lead generation with experienced drivers that can navigate the competitive track to connecting with. With Blue Egg, you're always in the pole position, leading the brand toward. Spin your wheels, accelerate success with Blue Egg, building small businesses. Worldwide Technology Raceway. Worldwide Technology Raceway is a motorsport racing facility in Madison, Illinois, just east of, close to the Game Arch. Features a 1.2 mile, 5 mile oval that in 2025 will host the NASCAR Cup Series, the long-awaited return of the and the NTT Car Series. They have a 2-mile infield road course that is hosting SCCA and Formula Drift events. Also a quarter-mile drag strip that hosts NHRA Mission Foods drag racing U.S. Nationals event. And the Kartplex, a state-of-the-art karting. Our series sponsor for tonight, of course, is Belly Up Sports, the internet sports bar. Sports commentary via podcasts, forums, and articles on topics related to every sport. Not your usual sports site. Check them out on X or at bellyupsports.com. Those are our ad reads for tonight.
Perfect. We appreciate all our amazing sponsors for the Elite Belly Up Sports Cup Series. As we start to line things up for one to go, I want to note that we had about half the field come down pit road and put 4 fresh tires on it. They'll start from Chris Wright in 23rd. That'll be your first car on fresh tires. Jonathan Cutlip will restart way back in the field in 34th. So, guys, now things get chaotic, I believe, unfortunately.
Yep. Cautions, precautions. I hope we get more green flag racing, because the green flag racing has been incredible, but fingers crossed.
Yep, that's certainly a concern at this point. These guys are very aggressive right now. There's still 70 laps to go, so coming to 69 to go. You'll have Blake Reynolds and Ethan Stanley on the front row, followed in by R.C. Anderson, David Tooker, Ethan Burrell, and Matthew Weeks in those first 3 rows. Pace car is off. Blake Reynolds is on the loud pedal. We are racing once again here from Auto Club. And Reynolds and Anderson migrate to the top of the racetrack well after the start-finish line. That's not a lane change. And they'll fire it into turn 1 and continue battling for the lead. Single file, first 5. It's Matthew Weeks split out for 6th. He's looking after David Tooker. He'll get that spot. He's got Tate Lytle in his draft as well. 3 Pro Edge Toyotas lined up on that bottom lane. We'll see if they can make that thing surge forward on these long straightaways. It hasn't really all race long. Ryan Gable's 3 wide with Massey. Tyler Fody right there on the front straightaway as well, just behind this group. That was almost a wreck.
Nick Massey got a little out of shape there, but hangs on to it.
Gable, that car on the bottom in the 0-1. You've got Ryan Schold working there in the 4. This is all for about 11 spot. Trey Holmes currently holds 10th. He's just in front of Massey, and they're side by side right behind him.
There was a little bit of contact there in that battle for second between Ethan Stanley and R.C. Enerson. They keep it pointed the right direction, and that allowed Stanley to kind of creep out front for that spot for now.
Stanley holding 2nd, Enerson 3rd, Burrell 4th, Tooker 5th. A lot of that teamwork trying to surge that inside lane forward. Tooker and Burrell now with the bump draft down the back straightaway. All of it's chasing in behind Blake Reynolds, who's working towards elite win number 1. The drivers with tires have not been nearly as aggressive as I thought they were going to be. That advantage may just not be as significant as we were thinking it could be, even with just a couple of laps on the tires.
You also wonder if maybe they're wanting to kind of take care of the tires a little bit. You know, considering that we could very well get a long green flag run, knock on wood.
You know, well, looking at the driver who's on screen, I don't think that's a consideration for him. He tends to not be concerned about the taking care of the tires thing. But
I mean, you never know sometimes.
I'm with you. Ethan Stanley down to the bottom of the track. He will grab the race lead away from Blake Reynolds here. Anderson trying to follow suit on the bottom. I don't know that he's going to be clear of Ethan Burrell. He will. He'll jump in front of Burrell. Will, last week's winner at New Hampshire, R.C. Anderson. Here comes Blake Reynolds down to the bottom once again. These guys continuing to dice for the race lead back and forth, trying to control that clean air. I think whoever controls that clean air feels like they have the best chance to win this race. Reynolds, Stanley, Anderson, Burrell still the top 4. Justin Wadsworth's working to the outside of the Matthew Weeks machine. That's for 6th. Nick Massey squirrely on the bottom of the track, moving up across the seams.
And they were 3 wide behind him when that happened, so that was almost a really big moment. Fortunately, Ryan Gable was able to get away, but now Massey and Hossack nearly come together.
Massey struggling on the bottom. That car is really pushing tight. I keep mentioning him because that's where the incidents keep nearly occurring. I think Massey's maybe overdriving it a little bit right now. As we shift our focus forward a little bit, he just flashed on your screen, but what a recovery drive for Gavin Hibbs. He was a lap down earlier in this race. He is now right on the back bumper of Trey Holmes. That'll be for the 13th position. He's currently on pace to try to work his way into the top 10.
Yeah, you see him. He's behind Trey Holmes and trying to work his way one more spot there on the outside.
Another good recovery drive. It's the guy he's trying to pass right now for that 10th position. That's Tyler Fody. Fody was head on in the outside wall 100 laps ago, and here he is back inside the top 10.
Yeah, definitely a little bit fortunate with that impact he had in the outside wall that it didn't cause more harm to that 40 machine. And right now, like you say, he's up there mixing it up in this top 10 or so.
Yeah, Fody is one of those guys where even if they get into an incident, as long as all four corners are still connected in some fashion, you can absolutely never count them out.
With you on that. Up front, R.C. Anderson has taken the lead over Blake Reynolds and Ethan Stanley. And that continues to be a spot that continues to get like passed around between all these drivers right now. Everybody really uncontent to run second at any point during this race. Everybody has been very aggressive with trying to bypass and control that clean air. Justin Wadsworth worked his way past Matthew Weeks. He's now gotten by Ethan Burrell and moved into fifth in the field. Oh, Wadsworth? Sorry, Vandermarl.
Yeah, Vandermarl got out of shape on the exit 2, kept it off the wall, kept it rolling, but has got to lose a heap of positions here. He was 14th last time by the line, and right now I'm seeing him down in 21st on timing and scoring.
So big drop there for Justin Vandermarl, returning to action after his incident in Michigan, or actually at Indy. No, it was Michigan with that car next to him right now, Ray Bracey. We've got the camera on these guys in the back. They are still dicing, slicing, 2 wide, 3 wide.
Well, I think that's where we're starting to see, you kind of mentioned where maybe these guys not being aggressive on the pressure tires. I think this is the larger problem. Where's Chris Wright supposed to go with his pressure tires right now?
Oh.
Big save from that 22.
Yeah, right now it's go around Josh Adams. Find a way around that 22 card. Adams was very loose. Here comes Paul Mikolajczyk. He's got fresh tires. So does Johnny Thomas. He rockets to the middle. They bypass. I think that was Vandermarl still falling back there on the bottom. Yeah, they don't have a whole heap of places to go. A lot of cars piled up in front of them right now.
I think they just need this to fan out a little bit so they can really take advantage of what they have, and it just really hasn't played out that way yet. Johnny Thomas out shape on the apron there.
The apron works pretty well with a car not like this one. I think at Auto Club. They used to run it, but Ray got put on the wall there by Adams. That was almost a wreck. Seth Rawls gave Ray Bracey a little bit of room there. Mikolajczyk and Wright are 3 wide. Both with, I think, battling for the lead spot on fresh tires. Right there, Ryan Schold in this battle as well. Mikolajczyk will clear Chris Wright, just barely.
Barely is understatement.
They will both move up as they bypass Dustin Dewar in that corner as well. Anderson is currently side by side with Reynolds for the lead, but they have been tame until this very corner. Reynolds poked it out to look underneath. R.C. Anderson was unable to get that pass completed. He falls back in line, but in all that fighting, Justin Wadsworth has risen to 4th, but here comes David Hooker fighting back on the inside to try and take that away from the Lake Norman Motorsports Chevrolet, and Wadsworth's lined up with his teammate Ethan Stanley, so that could be beneficial, but Hooker slices off the front nose of that 6 car. That was a very bold move by the driver of the 19. He was clear, though. Sure, Wadsworth didn't like it, but Hooker was clear.
Keeping an eye on the battle of the guys on the newer tires. Chris Wright has finally almost gotten into some clean air. He's right now behind Ryan Gable, and he's got his teammate Nick Massey just in front of him on the middle lane. Paul Mikolajczyk still right behind him, though. Of course, I say that now Chris Wright is getting blocked by his teammate, so that's good.
They might both have coordinated a move into the outside lane right there, but Massey fired it into turn 1. Picked up 2 spots, but obviously the the feeling of superhero, flying like a superhero on that inside lane is short-lived. You end up having to kind of fall back in line, but looks like Massey did make up the spot on Gavin Hibbs there by utilizing that inside lane. Blake Reynolds just took over the lead from RC Enerson. Took over third from Ethan Stanley. As we approach 50 laps to go, I would say even right now it's probably within the pit window to be able to come down pit road and make it to the end of this race.
Yeah, you're definitely in the window at this point. The question then becomes, all right, well, unless you want to do an aggressive undercut, I still think you're probably a good 10 laps away from most people who will want to come down pit road, but we will see how that plays out.
The aggressiveness is picked up, but in so seeing that aggressiveness pick up, the reluctance to leave the top lane for a dive to the bottom is also, I think, turned more prevalent, and that's what's kind of causing this stack up, is that guys are a lot less willing to lose 3 spots. Ooh.
Big sideways from Stanley. Wow.
The car has started to handle a little bit ill. He drops behind Matthew Weeks. He's going to continue to drop here as Ethan Burrell jumps to the inside. Yeah, not a lot of these guys are wanting to yield that bottom lane right now on these straightaways. They want to be up in that outside lane because you can see just how powerful the draft is as Stanley gets it from his teammate Wadsworth. Weeks trying to provide it to Burrell, but that won't be enough, I don't believe. And Burrell's going to have to get in line behind Wadsworth until he gets to turn 1 here. We can dive it in.
Yeah, we are starting to get some similarities with how we were racing at Michigan a couple weeks ago. Towards the later parts of the run, it definitely became outside dominant, and you really didn't want to risk making a move and just get freight trained all the way to the back of the line.
Right. It almost feels like some of those old super speedway races at like Daytona, where they would line up single file and nobody would want to step out. But in this case, it's because they know pit stops are 10, 15 laps away, depending on your poison. And
or maybe 5 laps away for Chris Wright.
Yeah. At the very least, I think Chris will take it pretty far this time. He did pit, 5 or 6 laps after everybody else on this latest set. So we'll see. Chris is in 15th at the moment, fighting with Paul Nikolajczyk and Ryan Gable, or just around him.
Yeah, Gable's about to try and get back around, and he's one of the guys on the older tires, if I'm not mistaken.
He is indeed. I don't think we've seen that be a huge advantage, though. I think it's been more of a momentum advantage at this point. The tires help, but they're not huge. Right at a checkup for Mikolajczyk, who got in line and behind Gavin Hibbs. That allowed Ryan Gable to clear by. Hibbs now to the bottom on Nick Massey. This fight ferocious for 11th on back behind Garrison Hogan.
I'm curious. Oh, trouble. Josh Adams around on the front stretch. Oh,
Carlos.
My goodness.
Carlos got a big piece of Josh Adams right there. We'll have to see how Adams got around. He had been pretty aggressive before that. Let's take a look. In contact with Dewar, but
Adams got the wall.
Got
and
a little
honestly,
bit of it. Go ahead, Zach.
I know Dusty didn't leave him a lot of room, but ultimately Adams is he has room. Not a lot, but room. He kind of drives himself into the fence. That's a close one, but I kind of feel like Adams did more of the harm there.
Yeah. It looks like he tried to pull the car off the wall.
Now,
and he comes back on the track.
Curious with Carlos here.
Everybody's down pit road, by the way. Well, let's take a look from what Carlos would have seen. There's Adam spun on the bottom, and then okay.
Yeah.
It looks like Carlos was expecting Adams to stay on the apron, and so he just left the car in the lane when he probably could have gone up to the wall.
He definitely panics, right? It's
Yeah.
a situation where once the car drifts up, he reacts, but it's definitely not. The car goes left here, which I
Yep.
get. He's seeing the car go up the hill, and he's thinking, I gotta get underneath him. But I agree with you. Probably the hindsight 2020, you gotta bring that car to the right.
Yep.
Tally to the 32. Interesting.
Why don't we bring William White in to discuss that one? I think that's a good idea. We have an opportunity to take advantage of having William White in the broadcast booth with us with some experience and stuff. So, William, if you've got a copy, I do want to ask what the decision making was on the call there. Take us through your process.
Hello. Yeah, it was kind of a fairly easy one. I think Dusty's lucky to be only on one tally. I couldn't tally him for his first incident with the 22, which was pretty much a carbon copy of what you've just seen. But that did bring out a yellow, so I did have precedent to tally the 32 for that one. Just very simple, got in the left rear, turned the 22 around. Fairly box standard penalty. I did also issue a tally to the 0-2. You might have seen it. He veered straight into the 22 long after the 22 came mostly to a stop, and Carlos, in my view, failed to appropriately slow down and ended up veering straight into a largely stationary car. He has made intent to appeal it, so we'll see what the result of that is. But as it stands, those two cars have been given a tally for that one.
Appreciate it, William. I guess my thought was, did it not look like Adams came down at all, or were you mostly focused on the 32 moving up the track in the middle of the corner there until they got into each other on corner exit?
I would say so, yeah. I think Josh held his line pretty steadily up near the wall. I think Dewar just came up too much, whether he got tight loose or just misjudged the distance or the space that he had, or in that case didn't have. He ended up just getting into the left rear of Johnson, spinning him around. It was yeah, like I say, pretty bog standard penalty. Not much Josh could have done differently there.
Okay.
Yeah, because I will say it did. Watching the scenes,
green.
I see a lot more
Yep.
movement from Dusty into the 22.
Gotcha. We appreciate it, William. Thanks for giving us your insight here. But we're about to go back racing, so we'll send you back to the waiting room.
Perfect. Thank you. I found out that.
That's our race control, William White. I think that's going to be a recurring theme now that we've got William, who's got a little more, control on that and a little more experience with race control, and that'll be fun to get his thoughts on incidents like that one as we come back to green. There's the summary that we just heard from William. R.C. Anderson on the loud pedal. He got off pit road first. He will restart with the lead and fires away from Blake Reynolds. Tooker and Stanley are side by side for that third spot, and it's Tyler Fody back in the field trying to make it 3 wide. Oh.
3 wide and almost got squeezed into the fence by Trey Holmes.
One of the casual. Oh, Wadsworth hard in the
no.
wall. Wadsworth and Hogan got big damage there. Brian Gable able to take evasive action to avoid, but I think both of those cars are going to be wounded right now, especially Wadsworth. Oh, a brutal incident here. Massey and Lytle making contact. They're trying to get around Wadsworth. Wadsworth's car's hurt. Gavin Hibbs sideways. Hibbs is going to be around in front of the pack.
Oh, man.
And Mark Rabilis, one of the ones around. Jeff Green's around. Massey went through the grass. So did Michael Goodman. They tried to alleviate Dave's blinking issues. I'll try and walk us through the carnage here. Hibbs got sent sideways by Tyler Fody. Came back up the track. And just absolutely pile drived into a couple of different cars. I'm trying to get on Gavin. He pile drived into Ryan Schold, Paul Mikulajczyk, Chris Wright, Dustin Dewar, got a ton of damage. See if we can see it here from Gavin Hibbs' perspective. I'll let you take us through this one, Zach.
All right, so there you see Wadsworth into the fence, and there's where Hibbs ends up sideways. That's got to collect Ryan Schold.
That's where we are lacking. In what happened. It looks like everybody was able to clear past except for Mark Robilas. Seth Rawls, Ray Bracey had some pretty solid avoidances there. But mostly they just held it straight and no one else spun out. It was once Hibbs got sideways, that was kind of all she wrote. Jeff Green got some damage. He has left the server. Clayton Norgard had disconnected. That's our stage 2 winner. He is now 2 laps down in 38th.
Yeah, I had noticed that trying to look back for my own viewpoints on the wreck. It looks like he had connection issues right before this incident, which is
sure did.
Heartbreaking for our stage 2 winner.
He had a really good run too. Did a late Norgard. He was up in the pack there, so disappointing end and result to his day. We are still running into this blinking issue here, and you can see it's the lights are blinking and all kinds of stuff on poor Dave's iRacing here, and looks like Wadsworth is the car that's going to get the ultimate tally from William White.
Okay, it's not the ultimate tally. We're not
Well,
gonna tie him up in the town square.
No. The one that causes this whole incident here. Because I think that contact started all the way on the back straightaway the lap before, where he got into the wall.
The tally to settle the score this Sunday on pay-per-view. Order it now.
Yeah. Looks like we might be back. R.C. Anderson does retain the lead over Blake Reynolds, Ethan Stanley, and Ethan Burrell there, 3rd and 4th. Not a whole lot of cars coming down pit road. I think everybody realized that only a couple of lap difference on the tires doesn't really help you very much after that previous run.
I also get the feeling that track position might be a significant worry here, especially with going full SoCal with the huge multi-lane traffic jam that we've been watching these last couple restarts.
We're still encountering the issue there with iRacing. Should we... We got a couple of guys in the infield care center, and I was trying to find a time to bring them up there, but...
Not now.
Yeah, it's a little late for that.
Because we are about to restart this race with 40 laps to go here.
Yeah, we apologize for the, the visual glitches. It's something we'll have to see if we can't rectify here in the next coming weeks. We did try to line it up after a couple of these issues were occurring there on Monday night. We'll try to get it back going. It's not what we want. It's not what we want to bring it to you. Looks like things have settled out. 40 laps to go. Guys, there's still a whole lot of racing left. Pace car is off. R.C. Anderson in the outside lane brings him into the restart zone, and he gets going in front of 2 additional Pro Edge Toyotas there in Ethan Burrell and Matthew Weeks. Anderson able to clear past Blake Reynolds and retain the lead for now.
Oh,
Nikolajczyk got a piece of the wall there on corner exit of turn 2.
Looks like it didn't collect anybody else.
On the inside, get Blake Reynolds trying to work underneath R.C. Anderson, bypass him, get back on after or in front of Ethan Burrell. He will do so, kind of fight for that second spot. Burrell is clear to third. They are 3 wide back there at the back end of the top 10. That's Ty McIntosh on the outside lane trying to clear that 3 wide battle. There's a whole space behind Trey Holmes where these guys 3 wide battle has kind of slowed them up.
Yeah, Tyler Fody got a little out of shape on corner exit turn 4, and that stacked up that whole group. They were 4 wide at one point working around Fody. Now they've kind of settled it out, but definitely a hairy moment for that group of cars.
They're going to run him back down here because these guys have gone to slicing and dicing again. Blake Reynolds to the race lead in front of R.C. Anderson. Stanley and Burrell side by side for third. And Blake Reynolds has been pretty consistent with that move when he dives it into one of these corners and slides up in front of another driver. As we get closer to the end of this race, that move may become riskier.
Contact. I think we're gonna be all right though. It's Justin Vandermarle and Caleb Pecumer. They keep it straight.
Not quite.
Tate Lytle also involved in that contact as well. He's pulling back on from the apron.
I don't know what happened to Tate Lytle.
Good save from Tate.
He has had a miserable couple of weeks, and they're continuing on. Got involved in that last incident. Now he's been, I think, sideways onto the apron. Oh, yeah. He was part of this contact. Looks like Vandermarle tried to go inside of Lytle when Pecumer was already down there. Pecumer comes up the racetrack into Vandermarle. Both of those guys do a great job saving it, and then Tate also goes for a 4-wheel slide and saves it. Back up front, Garrison Hogan trying to work his way back into the top 5. He will do so around Ethan Stanley. It's David Tooker giving a push from Toyota to Toyota there.
I will say, before something happens, this is a great comeback run for Ty McIntosh. Like, we saw him get involved in that early incident, and we thought he might be in for a long night, but look at that, rebounded up into the top 10.
Yep, really good run for Ty there, up way to the top of the racetrack in that kind of purple and white number 35. He's got his teammate Seth Rawls right in there behind him as well. So, Seth's had a pretty good night. They're in position to really capitalize on some chaos here late in the race. All right. Here we risk bringing Chris Wright up for a brief interview here. As things have settled out with 35 laps to go.
Sounds like a great idea to me.
All right, Chris, we're down with you in the infield care center now that this thing is spread out a little bit. Tell us what happened out there, buddy.
Got the dump button ready.
Well, I'll tell you, we were good tonight. It's not every week I get to race up here at the very front, battle for the lead throughout the race, So much fun to be able to race up here, race for this win. We were good enough to win. And boy, I tell you, we got a talentless group out here sometimes, and I don't know what they're thinking half the time. Burning us off of 4 coming to the end of the stage for, 8th or 10th in the stage. I just don't know what he was thinking. I know it was netcode, but he was so close to me. It was a move that was never going to work. Such a low move to make, and that turned us around. We lost our track position. We were trying to get it back there, moving forward. We were one of the few cars I felt like that could drive our way through the field, and we were doing a good job of it, and got wrecked again. It just, the guys that complain every week about the cautions and about what happens and about how these races play out, they're the guys that cause most of the stuff, and it's just a shame that we got drivers out here whose ego far outweighs their driving ability. And moving forward, as a lapper, I'll just race these guys same way they race me. They showed how much they wanted to race me tonight. A few of them did, and if somebody gets wrecked, so be it. I guess nobody cares when I get wrecked. It's I played a different strategy. It was on older tires at the end of the stage, and that was the first thing he said. He didn't say sorry. He didn't say anything about netcode until after William did. So I mean, they just drive without a care. So that's what I'm going to start driving without start driving without a care. This is my last season in the Cup. I'll be moving away from this car because this car is straight trash anyway. I can't wait for the season to be over and to not have to deal with some of these knuckleheads out here on Wednesday nights who have no clue how to race, just go fast.
We appreciate the candid thoughts, Chris, and obviously, you got any shout-outs for us here before we send you off tonight?
Yeah, shout out to you, David. You're the owner. Shout out to, heck, I don't even know who's on the car tonight.
Bite Size Sports.
Yeah, Bite Size Sports. Shout out to the whole team. Nick was up there at the front. We were both good. It actually did take some car control to run good out here tonight. So shout out to everybody at the broadcast, everybody here at Elite Racing Network for having to sit through these races and watch how some of these guys handle themselves on the racetrack. Shout out to Chad for dealing with all of it through the week. And, we'll be back out there next week, but the mentality's going to change because this is pretty much it for our season as far as getting into the playoffs on points. We're going to have to win a race, and whatever has to happen is what will happen. We're through giving guys an extra inch. They're going to get raced the same way that they've been racing me. So,
Appreciate it, Chris. Good luck next week, buddy.
all right, see you boys later. Thanks for the time to come up here and talk. Thanks for everything you're doing, Dave. Everything here at Elite Racing Network. None of that happens without Dave. So, shout out and props to Dave. I know he's been working hard since Monday night trying to get everything in order and get some little blips, fixed up. But before that even happened, Dave he does quite a lot here for everybody at ERN.
Thanks, Chris.
With that, I'm sure you guys were following along with this battle. There's been a number of shifts in position. Everybody's really dicing it up in about fifth on back right now. But up front, it's been pretty tame until just now. Here comes R.C. Anderson going after Blake Reynolds.
I think RC has been biding his time here. There's been quite a few bump drafts down the backstretch, and finally this time he pulls the trigger, but so too does Ethan Burrell. He's got to shoot to the inside of RC Anderson through 1 and 2, and this is your battle for the lead now.
Yeah, he almost kind of snookered RC there and almost kind of took the lead when he was really expecting it.
Ultimately, that does push Burrell into second, drops Blake Reynolds back to third, and Blake's pretty clearly one of the toughest guys that's going to be there to pass because he's really quick. He's able to make that pass back on the bottom of the racetrack, and if you can kind of mire him in traffic, that's going to be, I think, the biggest goal for these guys racing up front right now is to try and get that 66 car back in traffic a little bit where he's going to have to make moves to get back up to the front. I do want to toss it to one of you guys. What do you think about Chris's thoughts? He did get wrecked tonight, and he's been wrecked a couple of times this season, so I definitely understand how he's feeling. I'll just leave it off to one of you guys to give a thought on Chris's comments because I thought they were poignant with how we've been seeing the after race and midweek discussions regarding the racing on Wednesday nights.
Yeah.
Ooh, we got a spinner. Josh Adams around. There's the yellow. And Adams loose. He did get pile driven by Carlos on that last caution, and that rear end damage may be affecting the steering of the 22 car.
Okay, that's all well and good, but why are we going back up the track here?
Oh, we should probably be holding our brakes, right, Zach?
I would like to see us hold the brakes there.
Yeah, probably did not need a yellow.
Well, look, especially right there at the end. So this is not great, but it looks like there's nobody that's coming. But then when he does get back going, then there are cars coming. I don't know who was coming along there.
It was Harrison, maybe? Right there, whoever that was.
Yeah,
Was it
I don't
Paul?
love that. I don't love
Was
that.
that Paul?
Uh,
I think it was Paul.
I can't tell.
Yeah, looks like 50,
dark.
57.
And there was no caution until he pulled down the track in front of Mikolajczyk, I think. I think that's what triggered the yellow.
Quite possibly. So yeah, at this point, he sees a car against the wall, so he's going low, and then all of a sudden,
here comes the car.
Fortunately, he had enough time to react, but boy, there were multiple things that could have been done differently there. And that, I hear what Chris is saying, but that's hard racing. At the end of a stage, mistakes are gonna happen. That's the stuff that gets me upset when you see stuff like that. But I should stop talking.
Yeah, you can kind of take what Chris said and apply it to this incident in particular and a few others. I definitely get his frustration, being a bubble driver and having such a terrible result for your season, coming off of a racing move that you may or may not agree with.
Well, let's get the thoughts of another one of our bubble drivers if we can. Let's bring up Gavin Hibbs, who has had a bit of a struggle to start this season, but had really rebounded until late in the race last week. And here again, Gavin, you find yourself behind the wall. Take us through what happened.
Yeah, I was restarts here at tracks like this, Auto Club in Michigan, trying to make up as many spots as you can, and saw Garrison and Wadsworth hit the wall in the backstretch, and didn't really think too much of it. And then coming off 4, I just see Wadsworth get loose and then overcorrect into the wall. And then at that point, I had nowhere to go. There was 3 cars on my inside. I got Fody on my tail. Nothing really I could have done there. It's just unfortunate.
Well, you're on the track, so we'll let you get back to. I think you're going to get a lap back here on the wave around. But any shout outs here?
Yes. Obviously, you guys first and foremost. You guys put together a great broadcast. So you guys deserve all the love. I know Dave was dealing with some blips there, but still doing a fantastic job as usual. And then lastly, my team, Stricter Stock Motorsports. Shame with the race we had, wish it could have gone better, but we still got a ways to go before the playoffs.
We appreciate it. Good luck for the rest of the way, Gavin.
Yep, thank you guys.
Gavin Hibbs, a lot less emotional here in the interview booth, though I will note everybody's thrown props to Dave, and we know there's still some blips and iRacing issues here, and we'll look to get those ironed out before next week.
I'm not taking responsibility for the iRacing issue.
Yeah, it's tough to do anything. It seems like it's on iRacing's side, and other drivers are experiencing it. I had issues with my iRacing here tonight too, so it's not just Dave at this point. Ethan Burrell opened it up with the lead. Do either of you guys know if he took 2 tires? Because he came off way ahead of R.C. Anderson.
I can't say I looked at it, but I can tell you his pit stop was only 10 seconds. So that's usually that's usually a sign that he took 2 tires.
Ethan Burrell's going to make another pit call like he did in Michigan a couple of weeks ago and try and grab another race win. 24 laps to go here at Auto Club in the California 400. Pace car is off. Burrell onto the loud pedal with his teammate Matthew Weeks giving him the bump draft. Both of them migrate to the top of the racetrack. The gremlins continue on our end.
Real quick, I can confirm Burrell did take only 2 tires.
Here we go. So he'll fight for... Oh, hard in the wall. Dusty Dewar, Tate Lytle as well. Both of those guys slam the wall. Tate's going to drop back. We stay green. Neither of them are out of things or sideways. Up front, Burrell leads Weeks. Then Anderson, side by side for 4th between Channel 199 Simware teammates. That's Blake Reynolds and Garrison Hogan fighting it out in the top 5. David Tooker's going to try and take over that 5th spot from Garrison Hogan.
More pleasantries being exchanged on the in-sim chat.
I'm assuming...
I think Dewar got into the wall again on turn 2 there.
Is it Tate talking to Dewar? It's got to be what it was, yeah. Dewar's still out here chugging along. Doesn't seem like the 32 car is particularly damaged, but Tate lost a lot of track position in that skirmish. DeMichael's Hosak got the right rear. Tyler Fode. Fode's going to get sideways. Think that is going to be a yellow flag.
And of course, Tate Lytle got collected in that too.
He will not be pleased. And that is another incident for Tate Lytle. We've discussed those at length. Dave, maybe we can go all the way back to Tate getting into the wall with Dewar at the I think the restart there. Caleb Becumer got a ton of damage in this wreck as well, by the way.
David, are you on hold with the insurance company?
Yeah, we're gonna have a little bit of fab work to do this week. A lot of South Shore cars have been bent
I'm hearing like music in your background.
Oh, sorry. I will rectify that.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Is it always there, or is it just when I talk?
Just when you talk.
Okay.
It would have been the first lap after the restart, and at this point, by the time we get back to where the wreck actually happened, we'll be restarting. So yeah, let's just show the wreck, or we could do this. This works too.
It's like Dewar. I mean, they were already bumping into each other on the restart there. And yeah, I think it's right here coming off turn 2. Dewar gets a piece of the wall and then gets another piece, and Tate gets the wall. And that ultimately leads to Tate being in this next wreck. Which I don't know that we're going to have an adequate replay of. The sim is not being kind to us.
But you can watch it back on quick shifts.
Yeah, that might be the best way to see some of these wrecks is on quick shifts for Ray Bracey's YouTube channel. But I can tell you Tyler Fode got knocked sideways by Michael Hosak. And he bounced off a Hosak and then overcorrected it into the outside wall, caught Caleb Becumer. Hosak and a couple of others, as well as Tate Lytle, received additional damage.
Yeah, the race for Tate Lytle started out well. He ran really well in stage 1, but yeah, since then his fortunes they've been bad.
Yeah. Tate Lytle and Tyler Fode both. Go ahead, Zach.
I think Ket2 said it in the voice chat, but one of the drivers said we were racing better when we couldn't see each other.
Yeah.
And it's a valid but also alarming point.
That's another one that might need to end up in quick shifts next week. So we know.
Oh, I have a good feeling about that one. Along with, yeah, I think that one will make the cut for sure.
Scrolling back through our kind of roll through the field here. Ryan Scholden, 14th, having a very good day after a difficult start. Nick Massey there in 15th, having a solid day. Gavin Higgins has shown some excellent car control in this race. He is running 16th. Ray Bracey has climbed from 38th starting position to 17th. Josh Adams is currently 18th after multiple spins and some pretty heavy damage on that 22 car. I do wonder if he'll be able to maintain a top 20 position here on this late restart. The attrition of this race has kind of picked up, though. A lot of cars are out. A lot of cars are laps down with damage. You know, I think there's a distinct possibility that we could see some really good finishes from guys who just haven't really been up front at the end of this race.
And that's the thing about these long races is that, you know, staying alive, it's a skill set in and of itself.
So they do give Dewar a tally for that contact on the back straightaway. I don't believe that's going to be the incident or the issue for the caution. We'll have to see if William is able to make a call on that yellow flag as well, or if that was just a racing deal that kind of resulted from the stack up in front there. Oh, here it is. Michael Hosak with the tally. I think I agree with that, having looked back on it. I know we weren't able to quite see it as well.
And of course, that would be Dustin Dewar's second tally, so he has reported to pit road.
Yep. Ethan Burrell, Matthew Weeks, the front row. Burrell, remember, is on 2 right side tires only. Pace car is off. The Pro Edge Toyota's leading the way here. And they are back under green. On the loud pedal goes Burrell, trying to drag R.C. Anderson and David Tooker through on the bottom lane. Matthew Weeks, Blake Reynolds, and Garrison Hogan up top.
Thomas is sending
Johnny,
oh no!
And he wrecked Ty.
Oh,
Head on. Oh, Seth Rawls hit the wall an absolute ton. Took Ryan Schold with him. And
well, I said he sent it, and unfortunately, it looked like he just put a little too much postage on it.
That for being one of the guys that talks a lot about the respect and all that stuff, that was one of the moves of all time by Johnny Thomas right there. I mean, if you're Ty McIntosh, I don't know how you know that there's a car beneath you as you enter on from the bottom seam on the bottom.
Yeah.
No, he definitely wouldn't have gotten a call from the spotter there as Seth Rawls briefly turns into a helicopter.
I mean, that's a huge... Seth had a really good run going, led some laps today. Definitely did not need to get taken out here with 20 laps to go. Neither did Ryan Schold, who had done a nice job recovering from early mishaps.
Yeah, and as the driver last in as far as qualifying for the playoffs on points, that really makes the playoff picture that much more interesting.
Yeah, Chris Wright was on the outside looking in there, but and he mentioned in his interview he was feeling like he was out, but all of a sudden Ryan Schold and Seth Rawls go head on in the fence. Now they're going to finish down there near him. It may not be over for Chris Wright. I might want to go pull William for this tally discussion once he does pull it up here. Might be another good time to get the thought process for him. I'm interested in how that call's going to go, because Johnny making the 3-wide move is already a little bit uncharacteristic on the restart, but then for him to kind of just keep pulling up and pulling forward until he is alongside another car that wouldn't obviously know he's there in corner entry here at Auto Club is it's uncharacteristic. We'll go with that.
Yeah, like Ty does move down, but like we've said, it's hard to anticipate someone making a move like that, especially when you're in the center of the corner and you're kind of having to focus out of your windshield more. Like if a move requires someone to be looking at their mirror for everyone to survive, it's not necessarily a good move to make.
Yeah. It's very interesting to me that you'll have, if you're making that move, right? I'm not going to go against a 3-wide move. I think those are very fair. Johnny definitely got Seth on the restart and was able to pull to the inside. I think that's a good move. But at some point, you do have to mitigate that. You do have to take care of the other drivers around. If you're going to make that move, you have to do it without wrecking anybody. And that's where I think that he got into some trouble there.
Yeah, if he kind of lets off behind Ty, it's an absolutely epic move.
Right. He gains a spot. And it's going to be Ty McIntosh getting the tally there.
There has been a lot of incidents that were not tallies tonight. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know about that one, William. We're already 1 to green, so I won't pull him up and try and get an explanation on that. But I don't know what Ty can do differently. He's driving normally into the corner, and all of a sudden there's a car there. Well, that's why you got the appeal system.
Appeal doesn't fix a car going cartwheeling through the catch fence.
That is true.
Yeah, it doesn't change the Rawls copter happening.
Yeah,
And regardless of, we're about to go green, but I mean that's the biggest frustration with the tally system in general. Regardless of who you put on, is Johnny Thomas is out there still racing, doesn't lose a spot. Ty basically in the same spot. The only people who pay the penalty are the people who are out of the race.
Yep. You can't get those guys lost points. You can't get those back here. Is Ethan Burrell and RC Anderson on the front row. They will take the green flag. Burrell and Weeks now pulling forward. They'll have Blake Reynolds in the line. More moves to the bottom here. Josh Adams, Ryan Gable heading down to the bottom. And now if you get cut off there, you can just let it be on the guy in front of you.
Yeah, Hogan did not get a good restart. Like, I don't know if he kind of messed up his shift point, but you could see he lost a lot of momentum crossing the start-finish line.
McIntosh and Nick Massey are banging doors down the back straightaway. I think Hogan's got a little right front damage, and I wonder if that's hurting the performance of that 55 car. He's still working well, and we're seeing the restart under investigation here. Blake Reynolds is up into second. He's going to be challenging Ethan Burrell for the race lead in turn 1. And he's got it. Here comes Burrell looking back to the inside. Trey Holmes, a piece of the wall in the back. Everybody is again chasing Blake Reynolds. And here comes Burrell working to the bottom.
Yeah, now those two tires are going to be put to the test now that he's lost that clean air advantage.
Garrison Hogan got a piece of the wall behind. Trey Holmes is going to get around him. Up front, Matthew Weeks and David Tooker now on the back bumper of Blake Reynolds, as Reynolds will go back to the bottom of the racetrack and try to cut off the clean air from that 37 car, as you just mentioned, James. They're still side by side back in the field. They're still side by side for second behind Blake Reynolds.
Restart violation, car 83.
Thomas getting a restart violation. Interesting. Is that a makeup call?
Yeah, I wager there might be a driver or two in this field muttering to themselves, "Ball don't lie" on that particular call.
Nobody has been able to get back by Blake Reynolds here, as I think we'll see Johnny Thomas address pit road. No, not yet. Up front, Reynolds slices off the nose of Ethan Burrell.
He got the clear call and he took it. Oh, man.
Matthew Weeks drives to the bottom of his teammate. The Brickyard 400 winner going to be looking for another full distance victory.
Keep an eye on Jonathan Cutlip here in that bright yellow 5 car. He's ripping the fence at the moment and building up a lot of momentum. Well, I say that, and of course he's got right down on Ethan Stanley's door here in 3 and 4.
Oh, I think Weeks got a little loose there.
Yep, had a little space behind Ethan Burrell and in front of David Tooker, though, so he jumped in that hole. He was able to get some momentum back. We'll see if these Pro Edge Toyotas can gang up on this Channel 199 Sim Racing Toyota. They keep fanning out in the corners. I don't know if that's really going to help them on the straightaways. Tooker is now side by side with Weeks. Some real haymakers being thrown for about 15th or so right now. Those guys are really piling it into every corner. Tyler Fodes, I think, got fresher tires than everybody else, and he is really making some hay on the bottom of the racetrack. Johnny Thomas did head down pit road this last time by. They are four wide for the fourth spot. Cutlip riding the wall just like Zach mentioned. He's going to get there. Took her sideways off turn 2.
And that's got to be the brick. Cutlip needs to get out in front of some of those cars. Meanwhile, Blake Reynolds all the way down to Ethan Burrell's door here.
Weeks is going to have a run. Let's see what he does.
He's going to have a run, but he's also got Jonathan Cutlip to the inside. But no, here comes Weeks down to the inside. He'll get in behind Burrell. No, here comes Weeks down for the lead. 3 wide, 6 laps to go. Matthew Weeks gets the race lead. 6 to go. Burrell might be clear of Reynolds, but Reynolds is going to have a big run down the back straightaway.
I think Blake glanced the wall a little bit. If not, he came super close.
Jonathan Cutlip's hanging right there in 4th. He has not won a race in at least 2 full seasons. Can Cutlip finally get back on the board here? He's got a chance with coming to 5 to go. Matthew Weeks leads. Here comes Ethan Burrell challenging his teammate down into turn 1. Outside lane will prevail here for now. Reynolds going to be able to get in behind Weeks and force Burrell. No. Burrell kind of giving Blake back that move to cut off the nose of the car behind.
I gotta say, I'm a bit surprised they're fighting this hard this early. We still got 4 laps to go. I figured they would kind of ride maybe a lap or 2 and then start to battle it out. The sooner they fight, the more opportunity it gives Blake to try to slip by both of them.
Mm-hmm. The team cars specifically, right?
Yeah.
Jonathan Cutlip way up to the top. Look at Tate Lytle, 4 wide down on the bottom. Tate's got fresher tires too. He's moved up to 4th. With those tires, Tate Lytle's going to have a chance to pull this thing off.
This might be the comeback drive of the century if he can pull that off.
Tate from 7th to 4th in 1 corner. Now he's going to go after Blake Reynolds as his teammates battle side by side coming off turn 4 for the lead. Reynolds is going to push Matthew Weeks around Ethan Burrell. And Johnny Thomas getting another penalty. Reynolds to the bottom, going to look underneath Matthew Weeks. Weeks going to have to shut the door on Blake Reynolds. On corner exit at turn 2. Lytle up top with that outside lane momentum. This is a 5-car battle for the win down the back straightaway. Blake's going to have that outside lane against Ethan Burrell in those 2 tires. Ryan Gable ripping the wall behind. Here comes Reynolds. He's going to have the run on Burrell. Tate Lytle might not have enough time to get there. 2 laps to go.
This is shaping up to be a classic finish here after 400 miles at Auto Club Speedway. Right now, Matthew Weeks out front. Tate Lytle got tight there in the middle of 1 and 2.
Gave a break to his teammate Ethan Burrell. He slides up in front of Ethan Stanley for that 5th spot. Weeks out front. Reynolds getting drafted by Burrell up to the teammate. Matthew Weeks for the race lead. Here comes Blake Reynolds looking to the outside of Matthew Weeks. He's going to have to back it in and try on the last lap.
White flag one more time around here at Auto Club Speedway. It's been 199 laps to this point, and right now it's 4 cars under a blanket. Weeks, Reynolds, Burrell, Lytle.
Lytle to the top. Everybody else ripping the white line here through 1 and 2. It'll be all about the back straightaway, and I don't think Ethan Burrell's going to be giving any bump drafts to Blake Reynolds. He's going to have to do it all on his own. Reynolds trying to grab that first win. Entering turn 3, he dives down in just like at Indy. Weeks holds the top lane. They're going to be side by side off turn 4. Matthew Weeks and Blake Reynolds side by side. Burrell's going to get in behind Matthew Weeks, and they will come to the stripe. Matthew Weeks will get his 2nd full-distance race win of the season. He'll win the California 400. Burrell 2nd, Reynolds 3rd, Lytle 4th.
Oh, wow.
Eats it. after the checkered flag. Oh man, back to back in full distance races for Matthew Weeks. If my homework is correct, that ties him with Fody for most full distance wins at 5.
He knows how to get it done in these longer races, and just an outstanding drive. Was up front basically all the way. Just found himself in the right place at the right time. Was able to make that move and then hold the outside lane, and did a really good job of keeping the car under him when Reynolds was able to throw it to the inside. And once again, Blake just comes up a little bit short. These elite pros have really been spectacular in their ability to hold off that guy when he's charging to the inside. And it's been a very interesting season, given that we've seen that movie like 3 or 4 times now, where Reynolds has gone to be firing in for a move on the last lap and come up just a little bit short.
Weeks was up front, but he wasn't out front for a good chunk of that race. He was like right there in the mix, but not really battling up towards the very front, just always kind of holding the cards close to his chest. And then out of nowhere, oh look, there's Weeks suddenly battling for the win and taking the lead with a couple laps to go. And that's been the key for him pretty much all season. And especially I saw it in the truck race on Sunday, just out of nowhere, oh look, here's Weeks and he's about to win the race. You almost want to wager you can call him the closer of the Elite Cup Series.
Yeah, he likes to do that, does Matthew Weeks. He really likes to close these races out, just stay in the mix until the very end. And ultimately, he does get this job done here in the California 400. As you take a look at the race report, we do get a tally on Tyler Fody. Not sure when that would have been. We'll grab Ethan Burrell, I suppose. Blake Reynolds has not arrived in the Discord booth yet. So yeah, let's talk to Ethan Burrell first. Start to get these interviews under. Well, there goes Blake Reynolds. Grab him and bring him in now. And Blake, P3, but not for a lack of trying tonight. You were up front all night long. Take me through your night and ultimately how it finished out.
Yeah, long one here. Auto Club. It's nice to race here. It doesn't exist anymore, so it's always good to race a track that is good and doesn't exist, and we get to try it on iRacing. Yeah, I stayed up front all night. I felt like I played my strategy pretty well. 4 tires, gas every time. Stayed out when I had to. I'm working with this Pro Edge and other group. Forget what I was working with RC all night pretty well. Cut lip. Ethan and Weeks, all good stuff. But it gets to the end there, and I could have run Matthew in the wall, but I'm not gonna do that. Especially, he's like a semi teammate. I don't know. I'm just saying in a Discord, but it's a very fun race this time around, just because we actually went green. We had green flag pit stops. I think it's the first time all season, other than I think the road course.
Daytona too.
Daytona, yeah. It's fun. It's fun. I feel like we're finally hitting our stride, but again, at the end, just these cautions, and I can't do anything when the track gets cold and the rubber is like the only place to be. It's so tough. So, early in the race, I probably could have thrown a slider on Weeks there, 3 and 4, and gained maybe 2 or 3 car lengths, but there's just too much grip at the end, so I did all I could, and I didn't want to throw him in the fence, and then I knew Ethan was going to go with him off of 4, so 3rd place it is, and another week or I don't win. We're getting there, getting close. I don't know when it's going to come, but I really want to win this league.
Zach, you got a question for Blake there?
Yeah.
With the full well, I'm sorry. Going past the 3 of the 4 full distance races of the season, now just the 600. left on the schedule, kind of closing in on that halfway mark. Obviously, you've been up front. It's got to be another great points night for you. But what's the hunger level to just get that first win and get behind you at this point?
It's pretty high. I was just telling the guys, I don't know why I'm so fired up for a win. I was also telling Garrison, my teammate, I've been running an FTF, and FTF is such strong competition, and I feel like I'm finishing better, and I actually get wins in FTF. But for some reason, in Elite, I cannot get wins. I'm running up front way more. I don't know how many laps I led tonight, but it felt like quite a bit. I'm hungry for that win, I want it. Not sure about the road course. I know is it Kern next week?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Short track.
Car's gonna bottom out. It's a quick prediction for you. Car's gonna bottom out. I assume it's gonna be nighttime too, so we're gonna be bottoming out, and there's gonna be one lane. It's cautions at the end, and maybe we'll finish second.
Well, Blake, any shout outs here before we send you off? After we talked to you a lot this season, obviously, and
I want to talk to y'all on the stops after the podium. But I will guarantee it will happen this season. I don't know when, but it will. I will guarantee that to y'all. Shout out Channel 199, Track Racer, Drink Machine Works, all the guys I hang out with in Discord. I can't name them all. There's a lot of them, but it's a fun group to hang out with while we're racing, just having a good time until it comes to the end, and then I get hungry and a little upset when I cross the line. But a little quick outburst, you know how it is. A little Kyle Busch moment. Yeah, I think that's it. Oh, and y'all for broadcasting, and Chad for putting on this league. It's really cool that I think we're halfway point of the season, still full fields. Pretty cool for any league.
Gotcha. Well, we appreciate it, Blake. Have a good rest of your night, a good week, and we'll see you next week. And maybe finally it'll be your time to shine. We figure we're expecting a win. It's now it's a broadcast point though, so we get to talk about it all race long.
Put it in there. Put it on the on the docket. All right, I'll see y'all.
Thanks, Blake. Let's grab second place finisher Ethan Burrell. I'm pretty sure. Didn't we talk to this guy last week? We talked to this guy quite a bit, and Ethan, congratulations on another podium for you. Take me through your night, but probably start with that 2-tire call at the end to try and grab yourself a win. And it seemed like the car handled pretty good on those 2 tires.
Yeah, thanks, buddy. Yeah, it was. Man, it was hectic. It was pack racy like Michigan a couple weeks ago, but it was a little more on the snug side instead of loose. So once the sun went down, it kind of got a little tighter, but you could also push it a lot harder, and you wouldn't really burn the rear tires as much. So yeah, that call at the end there, I figured that was about a perfect time, like 20, 25 to go, and our tires weren't old yet. And I thought more people would do it. But yeah, it was. It felt good. I felt like I was on pretty equal footing with those guys there. I just wasn't able to be out front when it mattered. They got by me pretty quick, and then I just couldn't quite get it back.
So, coming off the final corner there, how at what point did you make the decision to fall in behind the 11 instead of trying to take it 3 wide?
So my intention was, okay, these guys, I was like, I knew Blake was going to dive it low. So I was like, I'm going to back up, try to get a big exit run, and then cut underneath both of them on the front. But the way it was pushing tight, kind of in the dirty air, and then they got kind of bottled up there at the late exit, and I basically rolled up on them too fast, and then by the time I was able to actually turn the car down, once we got out of the corner, I was already kind of right at Blake's right rear. So if my run would have just came just a tiny bit later, I would have been able to cut down, and I really didn't want to push either one of those guys, to be brutally honest with you. I wanted to win bad, and I was really bummed when I rolled up on them too quick. I had the wheel cranked all the way, and it was just just pushing out of the corner and kind of was too late.
Well, Ethan, you've got your win already. You've made a lot of stage points and stuff. You're in a really good spot going forward. Are you able to keep this momentum going into a couple of maybe unknown type tracks in Kern and then Sonoma, where we probably know a different Ethan's going to win that one, but those types of racetracks.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, it is good. I do good at the speedways and mile and a half. So Kern, I've never raced it. I don't even think I own it. So I guess I'm gonna have to get that. And I hear it's something else. Wide, short track, but not really that wide because kind of don't run all the lanes. So, and then Sonoma, yeah, I mean, I do pretty good. I feel like I'm kind of tier 2. Assuming, well, I'll put Stanley in tier 1, not tier 0, but I'm tier 2 at the road courses. So I mean, I always hope for a top 10 at a place like Sonoma. So yeah, it's good to ride this momentum. Getting my tally count down tonight helped. So I just have to not get a tally at Kern, and then we'll be pretty safe from the points penalties.
All right. Well, Ethan, congratulations on this race. And do you got any shout outs for us here before we send you off tonight?
Yeah, for sure. Shout out my wife, Rachel. Shout out Betty. She's always watching. All the guys at Pro Edge. That was fun, kind of having a bunch of our group get up there. It was kind of just had to push the guy and then kind of try to make the dive bomb work. I felt like I was rolling the bottom pretty good, but yeah, shout out those guys, especially Trey. He's had a couple good runs. He's had a streak of good runs here after just an awful start to the season for him. He was pretty discouraged, so it's cool to see for him. And shout out all the drivers. I've been kind of one of the people really preaching that we really need a good race, and the goal was a green flag stop, and we got 2 of them tonight. So that was a breath of fresh air. I'm sure it was much more enjoyable for you guys as well. And yeah, shout out to you guys for putting on these broadcasts for us. We really appreciate it, especially you, Dave. And yeah, man, I'm excited to go skim through this race after and figure out what I could have done different to be P1.
Thanks, Ethan. Congratulations on the win, and we'll probably talk to you next week.
I wish it was the win. Well,
or sorry, the P2.
No, you're good. You're good.
I'm ready to get out of here, man. It's been 4 hours.
You're good, man. The win's next week, right? We'll take it.
Yeah.
All right, later.
And let's grab the actual winner, Matthew Weeks, and talk to him. Matthew, you ran up front all race long, man, but it wasn't till the very end that it seemed like you were able to put your best foot forward. Take us through your night and how it felt to grab yet another full distance trophy there, buddy.
It was a good night. Most of the race, I was just sitting back there, saving tires, just trying to knock off the laps. That's usually what I like to do in these long, the full distance races. I just like to wait and take my time and really wait till the end. I thought we were going to have another long green flag run, but some cautions played out. And then once we got to like 25 left or something like that, we put that last set. It was just full send, no saving. So glad I was able to stay where I was at with everyone driving as hard as they was.
So Matthew, I there's definitely as sad as it is to say this, it was a little bit of a change of pace to get some of those green flag stops and all of that in tonight. Obviously, you love these long distance races. How much did it play into your hand that we were able to get some green flag running in both in the middle stages and a little bit at the end of the race too?
I think it plays a lot. I'm just one of those guys that really takes care of my tires with how I drive the car, and I think that first long run, I just rode around 8th or 9th or 12th, right in that range, and I was just saving tires. And right before we pitted, I pushed up, and I think I got to like 7th or 8th, and then we had a caution, or probably soon. I don't know. I was not paying attention what spot I was in, but I was up there battling. And then we had that second run, and I drove up, to the front just to get that one lead a lap and get that point, and then I just let them go and took care of my stuff again. But I felt like I was able to really rotate the middle of the corners better than everyone in the longer stages of the run. And like I said, luckily we got a good little stint at the end for me to really stay there too and defend myself. And excuse me, and Blake and Ethan, man, they made me fight for it. I'm over here sweating. They were two of the best in the series, and they really made me work for that one.
Yeah, and with 2 wins now, obviously in the 2 full distance races, you got your eyes set on that Coke 600 to make it a 3 in a row here.
Yeah, that track that's been circled for a while. That's the one. I think that's the one crown jewel I don't have yet, and besides Bristol when we do run it, but that's. Oh wait, no, I don't want even want to talk about Darlington because that makes me cry every time because Chad ruined that. Because that's my favorite track. Like out of all of them, that's the one I want to win the most, and it just never seems to happen. I always have a fast car. It's just something ends up happening. But yeah, I have the 600 circle. That's one I want to win. That's one I've run very well in and been up there fighting and had some bad races too. It's just we got to put it all together this time and really get that trophy.
Well, any shout outs here for us, Matthew, before we send you off tonight, buddy?
Shout out to you guys, all the sponsors as part of the series. Chad, for running it. Betty, huge Pro Edge fan. I'm glad she watches every race. All the Pro Edge guys, we were really stout tonight. And shout out to Blake and Ethan Burrell, man. They raced me hard and cleaned up there. And I was kind of worried when he dove it into 3 on the last lap that I might get fenced on exit, but I trust him not to do that, so I'm glad he didn't. We was able to drag race to the line there, and everyone that watched, man, this was a good race, and we needed a good race. So shout out to all the drivers tonight that we had some really good hard racing tonight, and hopefully we keep it up for the rest of the season, and hopefully this helps me turn around my Monday nights too, because that's been a struggle. So, but yeah, hope everyone enjoyed that race.
Sounds good. We appreciate it, Matthew. Congratulations on the win, and go celebrate, man.
Thank you, man. Will do.
That wraps our interviews here for the California 400. So we'll get some quick final thoughts from you guys. James, we'll start with you. Pretty good race, ended really well, but definitely some carnage there in the middle that we're kind of hoping gets cleaned up.
Yeah, but I am impressed in the sense that we got a lot of green flag running. Like, essentially, like, it felt like nearly the entire first half of the race was clean and green, only a couple incidents. And we saw some absolutely incredible racing. The top 6-7 guys were battling like it was the closing laps, but without the serious race ending contact. And it was great. Obviously, things started to go a little funhouse mirror towards the end, but cautions breed caution. So, all things considered, it was still a good race, and once again another barn burner ending.
Zach, your final thoughts on that one?
Definitely a dramatic finish, right down to the wire. Another full distance race in the books, and next week I guess we go short track racing. Of course, I love the short tracks. I hope we'll get some decent racing there. I'm sure it'll be quite the wrench thrown in because it's not one of our standard short tracks, right? It's not Martinsville or a Bristol or Richmond or even Iowa. It's a track that I'm sure a lot of these guys will be racing for the first time, and we'll see how they deal with it.
Yeah, Kern is going to be an adventure next week, so it might even go as long as this one did. But for all of us at the Elite Racing Network, we're going to hope against that, and we'll catch you guys next week for Dave Huckleberry, the producer, James Watson, Zach Evans, and David Westergreen. That was the California 400, and on the Belly Up Sports Cup Series, we'll see you next time.